Okay,
Hey,
we are
people.
live. We are live.
Hello.
Hello, hello.
Hello from King Talk slash Queen Talk. On So there's a queen here with us tonight and another one joining us. Yeah. King and
Hey,
Queen. King and Queen Talk tonight.
we are live.
We are live. We are live. We are live.
We are
Yes.
live. King Talk is live.
Black gold of the sun. Yes, we are.
On the black gold of the sun. And we are back here on a Thursday night. And we
And
are
we
very,
want
very happy, happy to be here.
to welcome you all here. Um,
Welcome, family. Well,
we
let's
have
go
a
ahead and
couple of
turn this
more
music down.
we have a couple of more guests that are supposed to be joining us a little later and later on in the show. If anybody who may be on here, which we will mention, is there anybody you see anybody in here yet?
No, there's nobody
I
in
can't
the
tell.
chat like right now.
Okay. Well, if anybody comes in, of course, there's a time later on before we leave where we invite audience members to come and join the conversation on screen if anybody wants to do that.
Mhm.
Definitely. Well, I'm not going through that long spiel. Everybody knows what I'm about. I'm Carte's Ransom, and well, should let Kenya Chase, whatever she wants to say about herself, our guest, Kenya Chase, introduce yourself.
Hi, I am Kenya Chase, singer, songwriter, actor, and I'm just happy to be here. Glad to be on the
And we're
show.
happy to have you.
Happy to have you, Sister Queen Kenya Chase. It's always good, to have you here on King Talk. I am Alex Ayawas. I am a writer, a thinker, spiritual seeker, and empath. I am a jack of all trades, master of some, that sort of thing. I care for my people. I love my people a lot, and so that's why I go so hard. Shout out to that one that's out there right now who's watching right now, family. Thank you
Hey,
for
one,
joining King
welcome,
Talk.
one.
Thank you for joining King Talk here on a Thursday
Thank you,
night.
thank you, thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. We're always happy to have you. But I was just going into my spiel about who I am, and what I do, in reverence to myself and to the family and that sort of a thing. And that's it. I'm just going to go ahead and
And shameless plug.
put it out.
Well, you know that you already know I'm an actor and a singer and a writer and all that, but I have two, never mind. I have one of my cast members on here right now. One of
Right.
my cast members, Kenya,
Yeah,
of
I'm
Mhm.
my
excited
upcoming
about.
film project, We Brothers. She's in the cast as well.
Yeah,
Right.
very excited about.
Almost let it slip.
Don't let it slip.
I
Hold
caught
on.
my, I caught
Hold up to
myself.
the color.
To start with, before we get into the topic at hand tonight, you
Mhm.
want to introduce the topic now, then introduce it again later. Just go straight into the current event.
I can introduce the topic now, and the topic is the divided Melanite man addressing the manipulation and attacks on the black male being. That's what this particular segment and that's the topic of this particular segment on King Talk this evening. And then from there, we can just go ahead and go right straight into the current events. And if you want to go ahead and segue in, Cortez, you can, you know,
Well,
build from
one
there.
of okay, but one of the topics that we wanted to talk about is I guess we'll go into that first. Uh, the alleged threat of a reattack on the Capitol that they brought up, and they used that as an excuse to shut down proceedings of working, you know, to get this new COVID care package passed or something. Is that correct?
Yeah,
Uh,
it's a COVID relief bill,
Yeah.
Mhm.
is what it is. Mm-hmm.
And so what we're saying is, why did they shut that down just because of this alleged threat? Why didn't they just protect the place? Because if there was an alleged threat coming from us,
Mm-hmm.
they wouldn't have shut down business for that. They would have
Mm-hmm.
just armed the place to the gill. Um,
True.
so I think they're just being totally selfish and uncaring. They know there are people out here who only have a couple of weeks left of unemployment and so forth, and people are struggling and threatening to be kicked out of their homes, but they're being selfish and not caring about the people, the citizens of this country. They call this place the greatest place there is, but that's a lie. I mean, when you look at places like in Canada and in the UK and so forth, who have provided for their citizens $2,000 a month, $2,000 a month since this thing's been going on for almost a whole year, because
Mhm.
everything was shut down last year in March, and here we are in March again. It's a year again now. And like I said, places like Canada and the UK gave their citizens like $2,000 a month, whereas opposed to over here, supposedly the greatest country on earth, yet they only gave our people what uh what the one time 1,200, and then
It
months and months
was
and months later they came up with the 600.
the 600. It was the 1,200, and then it was like they had to fight hard,
Mm-hmm.
because they had somebody who was supposedly did not want to relinquish, the power, for the presidency. They had that in there, um, and they had to fight hard to push, through that 600, which came out pretty much at the last minute, that sort of a thing. And then now, as far as reference, to this, 1,400, they're trying to fight like hell to prolong that,
Mm-hmm.
that sort of a thing. And so, of course, they're using this supposed attack on the Capitol to, prolong. They shut down proceedings for the day, and they beefed up. They shut down proceedings as far as the Congress is concerned, the business of the Congress, and then they beefed up security and that sort of a thing.
Well,
Before, go ahead.
with that, the thing about it is, if it's real or not, I don't believe it is the threat, but they got to watch their own security,
Mhm.
because when this insurrection happened back on February the 6th, um, we all saw,
January 6th.
well, January 6th, yeah, January 6th, we
Mhm.
all saw people that were on their security team helping the terrorists,
Yeah.
Right.
moving barricades out the way to let them come through, and things like that, and taking pictures with them and smiling in pictures with them. So they got to watch their own security.
Tagging them and everything. And so we understand that in the certain ranks, as far as that security was concerned, they were sympathetic to these people coming in and causing this, you know, insurrection, that sort of thing. They were very, very sympathetic towards it. So we understand that in the ranks of law enforcement, there are racist, white supremacists, there, racist, lone wolves,
Mm-hmm.
that sort of a thing. And they're going to, just like, he told the Proud Boys, stand back, but stand by, is what he
Right.
said.
Yeah, I
That's what
remember.
they're doing. They're standing back and they're standing by, and they're waiting for, their whatever orders that they're going to get in order to, enact, because they was basically saying that today, it might have been, in a sense, a false flag, but they don't know. It could happen at any moment. These people can come through and they can just try to attack and try to, do a so-called coup on the government, to take the government over. Then that way they can manipulate the government as to what they want done, and of course, at the expense of other people. But what
Mm-hmm.
I question is, when was there ever a time when Caucasian people did not get violent? When was there ever a time when Caucasian people did not get violent when things did not go their way?
Mm-hmm.
There's never been a time when that, to me, in history where that has not
Hmm.
happened. That sort of a thing. So if
I still
you,
can't recall.
yeah, and I can't recall either. So if you, if these people are so much of a threat, and all of this, and you got to beef our security, you got to shut down, the Congress, that
Hmm.
sort of a thing. Why don't you go and take the U.S. Army? Since these people are terrorists, and we
Hmm.
know that they're terrorists because of what
Right.
they tried to do on January the 6th.
Hmm.
So why don't you go and you round all of them up? Because we
Yeah.
understand if this was black people, if this was Melanites, we already know what would be going down. So why don't you go and you round, excuse my French, these mofos up,
Hmm.
round them up,
Hmm.
and you know, that
Hmm.
sort of thing. So that's the only thing I have to say on that, particular,
Okay.
issue. That sort of thing. That's the only thing I got to really say on that is if you if you if there's so much of a threat, why won't you, in a sense,
Right.
going? Why would you go to do that?
Yeah.
Thank you for that one is out there. Thank you, family. Thank you for showing up. Uh, we are here. We're in the current events. Part of our show, that sort of thing, and we're discussing of the the so-called threat, of an attack, that was going to be on the Capitol today. Family, if you just, coming in and just joining us, that sort of a thing. That's what's going on right now. So,
You okay? You okay, Sister Kenya?
Whew.
You okay?
Yeah, yeah, I was
Okay.
just coughing. Lord have mercy. Ooh,
mhm.
I understand.
ooh, I'm all right.
You sure?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. 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 So, did you have anything to say on that topic that we were just discussing?
Well, not really, because pretty much if I did, I would just piggyback off of what Alex
Right.
said, especially
Hmm.
about the response to things as far as our people,
Hmm.
brown people, they would respond to things totally different, and
Yeah,
we
we
know
all know that. Yeah.
we know that to be true. That's not an assumption. That's not me just saying anything. That's me stating the actual fact because I've seen it happen.
Hmm.
Mhm.
So it's just interesting how they're not doing applying the same pressure they would if it was us.
Right.
Right.
And we all
They're
know
very
why.
lenient. They're very lenient towards dealing with things when it's Caucasian people, and that's just facts.
Yeah. Totally a fact.
That's based on history.
And a lot of these people will just get slaps on the wrist. They're not going to get any real heavy jail time. A lot of them that went in there and did that. But if that had been us, uh, they would lock us up and throw away the key.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
so be in there for life. If they didn't try to execute you, which they probably would try to do that too. Um, and since we were talking about that a little bit before we go into the other two current events, real quick, I want to talk about the conspiracy theory thing,
Mhm.
since that's going on a lot now. And um, like when we say stuff like what's going on with the vaccine, stuff
Mm-hmm.
like that, people will dismiss it. Some of our own people will dismiss it as, that's just another conspiracy theory. Y'all need to get over it. That stuff's not happening anymore and stuff like that. When it never stopped, they just know
Mm-hmm.
how. They just learned how to be more um covert with it. You know.
Right. We're not
Um,
questioning what's in these vaccines. We understand that these vaccines, were, in a sense, uh, these vaccines were rushed out, and we don't know. We don't know what's in them. We're just basically doing what we're told, and we're not referencing history when it comes to what has been done to us, as far as what was done to us, and how we were used in experiments and that sort of a thing. So we're just we need to question. We need to know. We need to be informed, and we need to be. We need to feel confident within ourselves to question and
mhm.
to
Right.
choose. to either as I feel, if you want to have the vaccine, that's cool and that's fine. But if you choose not to take the vaccine, then that's cool too as well.
But they have our people out here being poster children for the vaccine. You
Mm-hmm.
know, everybody, so many people, I see it coming through my timeline all the time. People posting about it. Some people taking pictures with their vaccination papers. With a big old Chester grin cat, a Chester cat grin on their face, like, get your vaccine today.
Uh-huh.
Anyway,
Like I
like,
said, just being obedient. Just before you could get your flu shot, and you could just because I posted about this, you could get your flu shot, and you were fine. Now all of a sudden, it's this thing of you got to put it online and you got to put it out there for everybody to see, like it's some type of an accomplishment. And in a sense, it's just our people who are just reacting to media promulgated programming, that gets rammed, it just gets rammed into our minds constantly, daily, and we're just operating out of that sense of, programming. We're being programmed, and we are doing what it is, that they want us to do,
yeah,
by making these vaccines as a thing of normalcy,
yeah,
that sort of thing.
they've gotten a bunch of black pastors and black celebrities to help push this thing.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why a lot of black people are getting online advertising this thing, trying to encourage other black people to take this stuff, and which is not cool. But you
Mm-hmm.
know, because like I've seen at least like 4 or 5 posts over the past 2 or 3 days come through my timeline where people are saying, "Man, that second dose ain't no joke." Somebody else is like, "Man, that second dose is kicking my ass," but that just means it's working.
Mm-hmm.
They think that because it's making them feel bad, that means it's working and so forth. And I'm like, yeah, okay. And somebody was like, well, yeah, that's expected. It's supposed to do that. And after a couple of days, you'll feel fine. But how do you know what's going on with this vaccine? You know, dangerous side effects don't show up right away. Don't always show up right away. It may not show up for a few years. And then you got this new one now that they put out today, from Johnson and Johnson. Like someone
Johnson
brought up,
Johnson.
I was watching, something which I already knew about. Johnson and Johnson had some legal trouble. I already knew about that. I don't know if either one of you are aware that Johnson and Johnson have had some legal problems over the past
No,
couple
but
years. But
I do know that if something does really really go wrong with you after taking these vaccines, you there's no course of redress for you. You
yeah,
can't sue. You
somebody
cannot sue.
somebody addressed that to me because they saw me post that. They said I've been hearing that from a lot of people, but he said he asked his mother or somebody and a couple of people, did they have to sign anything? They say that they can't sue. Uh, and he said that they didn't have to sign. They said that they didn't have to sign anything, but that still doesn't mean that they didn't protect themselves. Either they didn't make them sign
Clearly,
something. Uh,
they've been saying that there's no course of redress that you can take if you take one of these vaccines and you still get sick. Which of course I posted on my page that there was four people in Oregon who took the second
so,
shot. This is after
mhm,
they took the second shot. Shout out to that family, that one who's out there. Thank you, family, for showing up. With
mhm.
us, we're in the current events, of the show. We showed up late. We're in the current events of the show. If you had just went out and maybe dipped back in, we're still talking about that.
Dark.
But it's yeah, the four people got got their second shot, and they got infected with COVID anyway. So
Yeah, it's not even 100% guarantee that you won't get it or supposedly spread it to somebody else. And what I was saying about Johnson and Johnson has been in court over the fact that their powder, their talcum powder, was
Same.
giving people cancer because it
Mhm.
had asbestos in it. And so these are the people that you have making a vaccine, the ones that are in court over one of their products giving people cancer. You trust them to make a vaccine?
Mhm.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So
It's very crazy. And what I was saying about conspiracy theories, we brought up conspiracy theories because people often dismiss that and call it
Mhm.
just a theory when it's been proven, especially lately with a couple of these films that's been coming out, like Judas and the Black Messiah. You see that conspiracies are real, and
very
and I'm
real.
not, and I don't want to spoil it for anybody who may not have seen it, even though I want to do a spoiler so bad. But
Don't spoil it, and don't
uh,
spoil it, Billie
the,
Holiday.
I won't. But the United Snakes, I mean the United Snakes, I mean the United States versus Billie Holiday.
Mhm.
If you watch that film on Hulu, anybody who may see this video, if you have not seen that film yet, it will show you exactly how they conspire against Black people in this country, Black people who won't back down.
And
Um,
without spoiling it, if you
mhm,
watch Judas and the Black Messiah? Judas and the Black Messiah definitely goes into how they actually do it. And you could talk about, you could call somebody and label them a conspiracy theorist all day. It does not take away the fact that this government is definitely conspiratorial. You
Mhm.
mhm,
know, we understand that they now, because this is in current events too, this just happened within the last couple of weeks. New evidence surfaced on Malcolm X.
oh
We
yeah, yeah, yeah.
understand new evidence surfaced that the government and the CIA were most definitely involved in
Hmm.
this elaborate conspiracy
Right.
to take the brother out and to have him murdered. And of course, they were going to implicate the Nation of Islam, because of course they want that warring factions within our self-determined movements. They want that warring factions.
And,
So we
and,
understand that. And then right, pretty much right on the heels of when Judas and the Black Messiah had came out, new evidence resurfaced on Fred Hampton. New evidence resurfaced, about how conspiratorial this government was in his murder and his assassination, which the movie does, without giving out any spoilers, the movie does go into that. Shout out to those two family members,
yeah,
to the fam, that's here, the two that are here right now and are watching
yeah.
King Talk right now. So
And I'm going to get to the last two current events right quick after I say this one thing because the last two current events actually leads into our topic for tonight. Um, but with the Malcolm X case, you know, the black police officer who wrote a letter and gave it to his brother and told his brother, don't open it until after my death. And his brother opened it, and it basically described how, the FBI and the NYPD were behind Malcolm's death and how they did things as far as like sending out fake letters and so forth, stuff like
Mhm.
that, like sending letters to the NOI posing as Malcolm and vice versa, sending letters to Malcolm acting like they're Elijah Muhammad, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and so forth, to create a rift and, create those problems between them. So they do dirty, underhanded stuff like that. Um,
they do.
and so our last two topics deal with, you know, our topic. And one is the George Floyd murder trial is coming up very soon,
Mhm.
and they're throwing
Next
out
week is supposed to start on next week. I think maybe Wednesday of next week.
mhm.
That sort of a thing is supposed to go on.
Yeah, they're throwing out all types of legal jargon and telling ways that you got to do this or be just so with this, or they may get off, which they want them to get off anyway.
Mhm.
Um,
They're beefing up security around the courthouse. I
mhm,
read today that they're beefing security up. Security is being beefed up, so because you understand, people will probably be there, to protest. This was the cop who put his knee on
Mhm.
George Floyd's neck, that was recorded,
mhm,
Mhm.
and that's what touched, of course, until he killed him. and that's what touched off all of the riots and the unrest of last summer, that sort of thing. So they're
Yeah.
beefing up security around the courthouse in lieu of what this trial, this
Really.
upcoming trial may do and what it may reveal. But of course, either way, it's going to be eye-opening for our people. Our people really need to be tuned in, and we really need to be watching because, yeah,
Yeah, if they let that snake off, it is going to be a lot of people angry if they let that snake walk,
I'm
that
not,
demon walk.
I'm
Huh?
not, brother. I'm saying right now, I'm not going to be angry if they let that. If they let them off, I'm not going to be angry because we understand. For me, and I know for you, and I know
But I
for
won't be
I
surprised.
guess Kenya, I understand that I'm not going to be happy about it, but you
Mhm.
understand what I'm saying. I'm not going to be because it provides an opportunity for our people to find to come up out of the fog again and wake up.
Well, I won't be surprised if he's let off because that's what they do.
Mhm.
Um, I will be pissed a little bit about it, because 'cause he don't need to be walking around out here. Just like recently, it was the anniversary of Trayvon Martin's murder.
Trayvon Martin's
February 26th
February the 26th,
made 9 years. Since he
9
was
years.
since he's been murdered by that little bitch. Excuse my language. George Zimmerman, who is still out here walking around free, who has also been allowed to profit off of Trayvon's murder. They
Mhm.
allowed this bastard to auction off the gun that he used to murder Trayvon with,
Wow.
and he got a whole lot of money for that gun that he used to murder Trayvon with. Just imagine, just imagine how that would be if O.J. Simpson were to get his hands on the knives that were used to kill those two Caucasians, and
Mm.
how would it go over if he wanted to auction off those knives?
Mhm.
they
That
would
would
shut
have been a whole issue.
they, they would shut that shit down quickly.
Definitely.
But George Zimmerman was allowed to put that gun up there for everybody to see and auction it off. And he made hundreds of thousands of dollars off that gun, if I'm not mistaken, that he used to murder Trayvon with. And I think that just speaks to the integrity, lack of integrity of this country, that they would allow that. Because if the
Yes.
situation was reversed, they would not allow a black person to auction off something that they used to murder a Caucasian.
Hmm.
Um, and that just further shows how you know this young black boy was murdered and torn down. And I will never forget hearing that 911 recording of those screams for help
Hmm.
in the background.
Yeah.
Those frantic screams for help in the background, which we all know was Trayvon.
Mhm.
Hmm.
He was screaming for help. When I heard that, it broke my heart. I cried when I heard those screams for help. He was screaming for somebody to come help him. And the second that the gun went off, the scream stopped. And then you go to court and they allow George Zimmerman to lie and say it was him screaming for help.
Hmm.
And saying stuff like he looked at me and said, "You going to die tonight," like some shit from a movie. Trayvon didn't say that to him. That bastard said that to Trayvon. I
Mhm.
bet you any amount of money he said that to Trayvon, "You going to die tonight." But he gonna get up there on that stand and turn it around and say Trayvon said that to him, and he's still running around out here today. That really just pisses me off. Um, and they just attack young black boys and get away with it. And our last current event of today is something that Alex brought up as far as the young teenage black boy who wore a Black King T-shirt to school,
He did.
and his Caucasian female teacher, correct?
She was
Yeah.
she was a
Uh,
female teacher.
a Caucasian female attacked and berated this young black male for wearing a T-shirt that said Black King on it.
Mhm.
Wow.
And so here, what happened was he came in. It was a Black History, it was Black History Month,
Mm-hmm.
So he came in. He came in with his Black King T-shirt on, and you see that all the time. You
Mm-hmm.
see a lot of our younger men, a lot of our older men wearing Black King T-shirts and that sort of thing to reference our history, to reference where we came from, where we truly came from
Right.
as a people, that sort of thing, where we truly came from. And she basically she tore him down.
Wow.
It says right here, she his name is Latrell Taft, is what his name is. His name is Taft,
Mm-hmm.
and he's a Black Oklahoma student. Says
Wow.
that white teacher berated him over a Black King T-shirt, called for White History Month.
Oh,
And we
uh,
understand that
what is
we get white history 365 days a
well
year
we
in
are
some form or some acne form of what they're calling so-called white history or
well we
Caucasian history.
well what does it consist of other than rape, murder, pillaging, genocide? What does that history consist of other than
I
that?
have no clue.
Um, and stealing credit for things that our people invented. Because,
mm,
like has been said many times before, the majority of the inventions in this world today, especially the stuff that makes the quality of life easier on people, it was invented by people of African descent.
mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Um, everything, you know, the thing that makes the light bulb last, and the toilet was invented by people would still be out in outhouses
Mm-hmm.
if
True.
it wasn't for our people. This, cell phone,
The
uh, the
cell
original
phone, the
telephone,
refrigerator,
the original telephone,
the
Mm-hmm.
the
quiet as kept.
refrigerator, the air conditioner. There would be no air conditioning out here.
Yep.
The
Uh,
internet.
there was George Carruthers, the brother who just passed. Peace be upon his name. He just passed. We understand that he was the one who developed the camera for NASA to take the pictures in space. He was the one to have synthesized that science and created it, and developed it so that they could do that. The cotton gin was created by our people, that sort of thing. I don't want to say that George Washington Carver was the one that did it, because I don't want to be incorrect. But cotton gin was created by us. Traffic lights were created by us.
Mm-hmm.
Most of what makes America run smoothly now was created by melaninated people, and we can just go down the line.
The
So,
GPS. The GPS system was created by a black woman.
Mm-hmm.
mhm, right.
So
Yeah.
much. This thing we're on now, called the internet, was
Hmm.
invented by a brother, a continental African brother. It's just so much. But yet we invented these things.
Table
But
etiquette. Table
but
etiquette was invented by us too. Table etiquette and how you use your utensils, how you use the
mm,
fork and the knife and everything and stuff like that. All of that was invented by a Moor. I forget his name. Was invented by a Moor.
hmm
Was invented by him. So most of
well,
everything that makes society run smoothly, what came from melaninated people.
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
And so,
Yeah.
definitely.
and so we understand that they don't have really, really, truly any history other than what they grafted from us.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
That's sort of a thing.
and the thing about it is, like I said, as an African brother, a continental African brother who invented the internet and invented the cell phone and stuff like that. But they're in control of it.
Mm-hmm.
We invent it, and they're in control of it.
We
There's
invented
something,
rock and roll.
and
We
they're in
invented
control
rock
of
and
it.
roll. Rock and roll, we understand, is a mixture of pretty much the gospel and the blues. Rock and
Hmm.
roll was euphemism for sex. That was in rock and roll. Be rock and roll and
Right.
sex. Basically meant sex, that sort of thing. And the juke joints, that we used to play in. So rock and roll really truly is a frenzy version of blues, gospel, that sort of a thing. You probably even throw a little country in there too. And that was
Yeah, it all came from us.
that was created. That was created by us
Even
as
classical
well.
music, even classical music was created by us as well.
Hmm.
So,
So, and
hey,
they, like I say, they don't really, really, truly have a history other than what they grafted from indigenous, melaninated, and what some people would say autochthonous people.
hmm did you
They
ever,
don't. They don't. They don't. They don't have one.
right? Did you ever see anybody come in the studio? Not yet.
No, I didn't see anybody
Okay.
coming in. I was, I have been looking for
Hmm.
somebody to come in. They have not came in yet. Here, let
I
me
don't know. I don't know if she's having any problems. It might be her first time trying to get on here. I don't know if she's ever used StreamYard before, Kimberly. Um,
no, I didn't see. I was
but I told her to come on around 7. She might just be a little late anyway.
right.
Uh, but those last two topics that we just talked about were, examples of the George Floyd situation of him being, attacked in every way, mentally
Hmm.
and physically.
Definitely.
Um, and then what happened to the young black boy in school being berated by his white female teacher. For those of you who only want to think that Caucasian men are evil towards black people, you need to remember that a lot of these Beckys, these white women are just as evil as their white male counterparts.
Hmm.
And we have to be about protecting our children. Protecting black children should be more important to us than trying to sing kumbaya with Caucasians.
Right.
And I'm not sitting around hating anybody, but I can't be worried about trying to sing kumbaya with Caucasians.
Here's Kimberly right here.
Yeah, I can't be worried about singing kumbaya with Caucasians while we're out here and we need to heal the division amongst our own people.
True.
Hey, Kimberly,
How you doing, Kimberly?
Hello.
Hello, hello
How you
everyone.
doing? Welcome to King Talk.
you down there
Hello,
in the
thank you
shadows.
for
I can't
having
hardly see
me.
you.
Oh, sorry. Thank you for having me. You see me now?
Thank you for being here. You here just in time. We was about to get to the topic of the evening.
Right. We're
Um,
just we're just finishing up with current events,
Not a
pretty much.
problem. I'm glad to be here.
okay, well, we got two queens on here at one time. Queen Goddess Sister on here, yes.
Uh huh.
And both K's, Kenya and Kimberly. All right.
Mhm. Right.
Right.
Right,
Like,
right.
how do you pull that off?
And they both sing. Y'all gotta start a little duo. Anyway, so introduce the topic once again before we get
The
into it.
topic is the divided Melanite man addressing the continued, addressing the, hold on, let me look at it again because, hold on for 1 second, because I don't want to get this wrong, y'all. So just bear with me. Addressing the manipulation and attacks on the black male being. And we really kind of just segued into it already,
Mhm.
talking about Latrell Taft, talking about, you know, as far as Judas and the Black Messiah is concerned, the George Foreman, a lot of what the current events went into what those continued attacks was. We went into
Oh yeah.
the evidence that came out about Fred Hampton, the new evidence that came out about, as far as, what happened with this government and how this government, conspired to have him killed and to have him murdered. and the new evidence that resurfaced about Malcolm X as well, implicating this government as far as the FBI is concerned in conspiratorial plannings to have the brother murdered because of what he represented, because of what both of those brothers represented against our people. So in a sense, we, in the current events, touched on what the topic of the show is about, but of course we're going to go deeper and that sort of a thing. So basically, we understand that the Melanite man, or when I say Melanite, I'm basically talking about, when I say Melanite, I mean black. So Melanite reads black. And basically what that is it's referencing the vast intelligence of who we are as black people. What the unique distinction as far as the vast intelligence in our skin called melanin that makes us who we are and gives us that special distinction of who we are as a people. So when I say melanite, I'm talking about the melanin quotient in our skins, which of course makes us, the powerful conducers and conduits of energy that we are as a people.
So from there, did you want to get into the topic of the, the term of toxic masculinity and so forth?
We can talk about toxic masculinity. We can talk about what that actually really truly is. Actually, we're going to go into a few things.
Right.
Emasculation. We could talk about that. We could talk about emasculation. We can also talk about what is called butt breaking. We can talk about that, and then we can go into what is basically labeled as toxic masculinity, and then of course hypermasculinity, or what they're calling hypermasculinity as well. That sort of thing.
And then we also, because I definitely want the ladies both here for that. We wanted to talk about something that's never really touched by people, which I've already discussed with Kenya, and I think I mentioned it to you also, Kimberly, about the topic of female pedophilia, and how it's looked at when a black male says that he was molested by a grown woman when he was a little boy. It's often brushed off and stuff like that, and not taken seriously. But we can get into that. I don't know how long are you able to be on here, Kimberly?
I should be good until about 8:00.
8:00. Okay.
8:30.
Okay.
I moved some
Cool.
stuff around so I could make sure I was staying.
All right. Cool. Thank you. Appreciate
Not a
that.
problem. Not a problem. Thank you guys.
Mm-hmm. And thank you for being here.
Oh, not a problem.
Sister Kimberly. Thank you for being here. Thank you for the fam that's out there, the two that's out there, and the three that was here, that one that was here, and thank you for the two that's watching now. Thank you for joining King Talk here on a Thursday night.
And whoever is out here, please like and share, like and share, like and share. Hit that thumbs up button because it helps the algorithms to move and so forth. And
Mm-hmm. That sort of thing.
So you said you want to deal with the whole thing with the masculinity piece first.
Right. So basically, our men have a very, very potent, they have a very, very potent form of masculinity. That's in a sense under duress. We understand that as Melanite men, we have the most potent masculinity on the face of the planet. So of course, in the face of what they call, quote unquote, white supremacy, which is really, really truly white, or what some people are calling now white fragility, or what I would call Caucasian fragility, is where a lot of these continued attacks on our manhood and on our sense of who we are as men that's where they continue to keep coming from. As far as in the face, as far as our potent masculinity is concerned, in the face of that
Hmm.
that white fragility, that sort of a thing. So basically, the behaviors of toxic masculinity are extreme, or what's like something they're saying, extreme self-reliance, inability to ask for help, even when it is wise to do so. Here's another definition: shame, disassociation, and avoidance of emotional expression,
Mm-hmm.
and erroneously associates uh, unreliability. Let me hold on. Let me read this right. Erroneously associates depending on others with weakness. That sort of thing. Uh, so
Well,
that's the definition of what they say toxic masculinity is. But I feel, as far as the narration is concerned, this is what they try to do is they try to pin this on black men in a
mhm.
way to emasculate us, and in a way to dilute what I'm saying is that very very potent form of masculinity that we have as men.
Well, as I said, masculinity in itself is not toxic. What is toxic are the untreated traumas um, in the minds of some black men, things that traumatize them in their childhood. And this thing about not wanting to ask for help and stuff like that, and not wanting to show emotion, that's because often young black boys are told, "Don't cry,
That's right.
better
Mhm.
not cry."
Right. Right.
Only girls cry. That black boys are told that. So when you say this to a young black boy that you're not supposed to cry because men are supposed to be tough and strong, and you're saying this to a little boy who's practically a baby, like I've seen people say stuff like this to young black boys that's like 2 and 3 years old, 4 years old, and you telling them that they can't cry. Um, so you embed that into their mind. So what do you expect when they grow up? That being told that is going to manifest itself in a certain way. Um,
Mhm.
and then you want to turn around and call them toxic when that thought pattern was placed in them, was placed in their spirit. So it's irresponsible to just sit around and call them toxic and not bring up the cause of that happening. You have
Mhm.
to you have to look at the cause and effect and then address it. You got to go to the root of things. And I'm hearing somebody type. It
Right, and if whoever's doing that,
It's
if you
like a
can,
static type thing in the
yeah,
Is
it
background.
that what
sounds
that
like
is?
static.
It sounds like
But
somebody typing on the computer. I don't know where that's coming from.
right, it does sound like somebody like clicking off like on a computer, that sort of a thing. But maybe if somebody needs to mute their phones, go ahead and mute your phones, because it could be that too. So if anybody has like their phone open, go ahead and mute your phone. And maybe we'll stop getting, because sometimes if the phone's not muted, it can bleed into uh the live recording as well too. That's what the thing. So um
So did either one of the sisters want to say anything in reference to, you know, the whole term of toxic masculinity and so forth, and uh, how it's often just aimed at black men. You don't never really hear that term really aimed at Caucasian men.
Mm-hmm.
mhm.
It's normally only brought up for the most part aimed at black men, although Caucasian men have literally, and I've said this before, and it's not being mean, it's just the truth. Caucasian men have gone across the world. They literally have raped the globe, gone across, they've raped the planet. Uh, but yet they're not called toxic. Um, it's aimed at us, and it's aimed at us for a specific reason. Uh, because they want to strip the strength from a black man. Not saying that you have to be this hard, masculine person to be strong, but there is an agenda to do certain things. Like there is an agenda against Black love, which I clearly see going on now, and there is an agenda to, lessen the confidence and so forth in a Black man. So one of you two wanted to say something, or Alex or Kimberly or Kenya or Alex.
Okay, like I say, as far it gets leveled against us because in the face of what they call white fragility, because we wield such a potent masculinity. White fragility, in a sense, cowers in the wake of who we are as Black men, especially if we're completely empowered in who we are as Black men. That sort of a thing. So it's something that they do to label us as, so that it's in a sense, it to control the narration about how we are to conduct ourselves as men in that sort of a sense is what I'm saying. We understand that as far as our role models as men coming up, a lot of our Black men did not have, as far, as the father may not necessarily being home, and and we understand that that is because of mass incarceration. But I don't want to perpetuate a stereotype here. My father was home, so my father taught me, in a sense, through example and through direction, how to be a man, how to be responsible, how to treat women with respect, that sort of a thing. But at the same time, my father wasn't in a sense, shall we say, very, very emotional. He expressed anger and he expressed this emotion right there, but other emotions as far as things, that would make him seem more vulnerable. He didn't really express like that. So a lot of what our upbringing is points to the fact that we could not show undue emotion as men. That was seen in a sense as a weakness.
Yeah.
That sort of a thing. And so I feel that's the only way, and that's based on my upbringing. That's the only way that we, in a sense, could be toxic, is in that we could not really express emotion and embrace our emotion as men. As men, we were supposed to, even as kids, we were supposed to hold our emotion in, control our emotions, that sort of a thing. And what it did is in that, when you're raised in that sense, it stunts emotional, having, shall I say, a wide emotional palette to draw from, which of course makes you, emotionally cold, emotionally unresponsive, that sort of thing, because it's truly not been encouraged for you to be that ever since you were coming up. I remember, hearing stuff like, stop all that faggy crying, suck it in, suck it up, that sort of thing. You could not, if you were hurt, you couldn't really show that you were in pain. You had to hold it in and not really express that vulnerability of the pain, or the pain that you was even in. So
Yeah.
if that resonates, with anybody, y'all can build on that. But that's how I'm seeing how we as Black men may, in a sense, have fallen into, how we can be toxic, or have a toxicity as far as our masculinity is concerned, because of not being able to really truly express our emotions and be, in a sense, vulnerable.
But I want to say something on that note. Coming from a woman's perspective, what we get is we end up in relationships with men that don't know how to express their emotions, men who don't know how to connect with us, and that's really heavy. because that shows that because their emotions were pretty much desensitized. It's like you can't have these, but your body wants to have these emotions, but you have to suppress them because you're based on being a man, you're not supposed to show that side of yourself. And what that does is it does him a disservice, because when he becomes a man, he has to get along with women. He has to be able to relate with his mother, relate with people, and without being able to express those emotions, especially in a relationship, it's difficult. It's difficult if you have never been to, and if you've never been able to freely express what you are feeling, whether you're happy, sad, mad, depressed, anxiety, whatever. You should be able to express that. And when you're not able to, I mean, for so long, because as a child, I mean, you grow and you grow and you continue that same pattern, and then you get into a relationship, and he may not understand why he cannot connect with this woman, but it actually goes back to the things that he lacked from when he was growing up. I always think that the upbringing of a child or a person is so important. I mean, it is detrimental to the type of adult that they'll become, and especially with men, because when he doesn't have anybody to model what a man looks like, on my side, I have to deal with this man who has not been taught how to be a man. And in my mindset, I want him to do things that a man does, not knowing that he wasn't taught, or not really fully grasping that if he was not provided with the tools to be a man, or shown or exhibited what it looks like to be a man, that he can't be that man for me. You know what I mean? And it's like we end up in so many relationships that we end up labeling toxic, because what ends up happening is it becomes toxic behavior. He wants to be with the woman, but he cannot, even if he wanted to, be able to express those emotions, because he has been suppressing them for so long that it's just become second nature to him. And now this woman is like, tell me how you feel. How do you feel about me? How do you feel about our relationship? And he cannot express. However, he may really want to. But now, from holding it in so long, it's going to be so difficult. And then he becomes one of those damaged men. One of them damaged ones that we don't want to deal with, because it's so difficult trying to get them to express how they feel when they've been set up by society, and not only their family, but the world says that if you are a man, you are not supposed to express any type of anything that express weakness. But expressing that you're hurt is not weakness. That's called truth. It's called expressing my true feelings and being true with myself. So basically what's happening is they're like not being true to themselves and their feelings. So they're not in touch with them. So then we get in these relationships and we're like, okay, well, talk to me. I mean, so many women that I know have a problem with communication in relationships, because it's like, it's almost like you got to pull teeth when you're trying to get a man's feelings out of them. It's almost like, just tell me how you feel, because we can so easily tell how we feel and express our emotions. But for men, it's not so easy. And I think sometimes as women, we don't wrap our minds around that who we choose and what their upbringing was has a lot to do with how he's going to handle you in a relationship. That's my angle. Because see, I can't think like a man. I can't figure out how a man is. All I can tell you is from the perspective of dealing with broken men. And me, I'm not the type of woman that wants to argue. I don't want to fight. I want to build my man up. I want him to know that he's great. I want him to know that he can achieve all things. But I cannot penetrate him if he don't know how to receive the type of love that I'm trying to give him? And that comes from his upbringing, the damage. His love may look another type of way. My love is truly being there for you and supporting you. But growing up, his mother, the first woman he has to love, may have showed him a different type of love that may have been a little dysfunctional. So when I express my love, that's free-hearted, loving, supporting, and really trying to build you up, you can't build because you can't even interpret the language of love I'm trying to give to you because of your damage, because your inability to express your emotions or come to terms with what they are and speak them out of your mouth, because that is what makes them real. It's like damage. I know so many men, I can say you are a good man, but they damaged. And I think that's what ends up happening. Women think that they're telling that little boy to don't cry toughens him up. No, you're doing that baby a disservice. He is not going to be able to be the great man that he was destined to be without being able to get in touch with his emotions. And then I have to deal with him. Or sis, you got to deal with him. Or some woman has to deal with this man who's not a bad person, but he has no idea how to express these emotions that this woman keep telling him to express. But his whole life, he's been told to suppress these feelings. That is a sign of weakness. Don't you cry. But in actuality, he needs to cry. Cry is not a sign of weakness. Crying is a sign of release. Sometimes you need to let some things go. And a man just needs to cry. My man, he can cry right in my arms, because that's the type of woman I am. I'm going to let him cry in my arms. I'm going to let you go ahead and get that out. Be what you're supposed to be. Express those emotions. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Yeah, definitely.
Sister Kimberly?
Sister Kimberly, you want to espouse on that?
I was just going to most definitely agree because, well, my background is in clinical mental health. I'm in a master's program. So I definitely see this in the African-American community, especially with our men. And I don't think we as women know how many times we run into everyday broken men, or what we would call in like therapy, people who lack emotional intelligence, which means, like you said, we can't cry. They can't cry. They always got to be hard. They can't ask for help. They got to do this. They got to do that. And like you said, it's a disservice. And then what we have been seeing, and I'm grateful, is that we have been seeing an influx of African American men, or, as you said, the Black man, in therapy now. And then now we're starting to get even more Black therapists, especially male therapists, because now they have discovered, yes, I can go to therapy. Yes, I can take the necessary steps to reach out and get resources, to get help, to learn what emotions are healthy, how to express those emotions in a healthy manner. And it's such a beautiful thing to see. And that's why I'm in this field, because we have to change the narrative. Our Black men are strong when they cry. Our Black men are not weak. Our Black men are supportive. They know how to be emotional. They know how to express. That is the narrative that we are on the road to changing. And Miss Kenya, you definitely summed it up perfectly. I don't have to do anything else. You summed it up perfectly.
You spoke well too. That was great what you just said. Yeah. Also, both of you were very powerful.
Yeah, both of we're so happy to have you here. And they both were very, very powerful. But yeah, that's what toxic masculinity, or what they're calling toxic masculinity, is. And that's what I've seen coming up as a Black man, that you really, really could not show your vulnerability. You could not be sensitive. You had to hide all of that and just put on this, this He-Man, that sort of thing. You have to put that on, and just, no matter how much pain you went through, that's what you had to, in a sense, that's what you had to like do. So
yeah, because I one time I was on the bus stop a few years ago, and it was this woman, I guess it was her son. He couldn't have been no older than 2 or 3. He fell and hurt his knee, skinned his knee, and he started to cry. And she said, "Get up and stop crying like a little girl." That's what she said to this little boy. So just imagine how those words are going to manifest itself in his mind as he grows up. She's telling
Yep.
him that crying is for just for girls to cry and stuff like that, and it's just crazy. And then when they grow up and they're acting hard and don't want to show emotions, people want to just say that they're bad and they're
Yeah.
toxic instead of looking at the cause of how they
The-
got that way.
True,
Right,
true,
yeah.
right, right.
true. So we can go into what's supposedly what they're calling hyper masculinity, and this is
Hmm.
another way of where we as a people really need to own the narrative around this, as far
Mhm.
as how some of our men, in a sense, how they express themselves.
Hmm.
But basically, the definition is a psychological term. Hypermasculinity is a psychological term for the exaggeration of male stereotypical behavior, such as an emphasis on physical strength, aggression, sexuality, um, and it let me see. It's also typified by callous sexual attitudes towards women, the belief that violence is manly,
Mhm.
and the experience of danger is exciting.
Yeah.
So we can look at out in society and we can see how, in a sense, our men, have been plied with this particular type of aberration or mental aberration and emotional aberration, as far as like I said, just like with toxic, toxic masculinity, what it really truly means to be a man. You got to be violent. You got to, be, in a sense, disrespectful towards our sisters. You got to, be, in a sense, like always in heat and always, in a sense, ready to go. That
Mhm.
sort of thing. And I feel there's so much empowerment in how we re-own and retake that narrative and use it, for something, that can really truly help us. Because I've seen a lot of our men fall into that particular trap too. And of course, on one end, it's used, in a sense, to assail our very, very powerful and potent masculinity when it's balanced and when it's healthy. And then on the other end, it's used to it's negatively used as as a role model for what it truly, in a sense, what it means to be a man. You got to be violent. You got to be overly sexual. You got to be callous, towards women, disrespectful, towards women, that sort of thing. So we could
Well,
talk about it as well.
that that whole hypermasculinity thing was glamorized and popularized um, in films and in music, hip hop music,
Yeah.
Well, that
inten-
you still see it
yeah,
today. You
yeah,
still see it.
intentionally, because when hip hop music first started, it was not like that. It started off being conscious, and black people talking about uplifting each other, you know,
Mhm.
um, and truly thinking for ourselves. But the white executives, record executives, did not want to push that anymore.
Mhm.
So they started putting all their money behind the quote unquote gangster rap. And rappers who wanted to the rappers who wanted to continue to rap about positive things in our community, they didn't give them any backing any longer.
Mhm.
So the white folks with the money are the ones who pushed that unhealthy thing out there in our community, having black men disrespect black women on record, calling
Mhm.
them bitches and hoes, and also using the N word, because there was a time where you didn't hear that word
Mhm.
in music. You didn't always hear the word nigger in our song. And nowadays it's set to a beat, and like that song you and I always talk about, Alex. That song I cannot stand. That I'm living my best life. I ain't
That
going back
song.
and forth with you niggas. I can't stand that song. I
That's
cannot
what.
stand that song, because that song that that song teaches us to be dismissive to our own people.
Mhm.
First, you know,
Mhm.
um, what are you complaining about? That's what the song is saying. And then you got somebody in the background saying, "Smile, bitch, smile, bitch." I'm like,
Mhm.
what the hell is that? What the hell is that? I
It's
was
that
I was I was in a club a couple of years ago when that song came on, and I saw all these black adults jump on the dance floor, dancing to this song and singing those words. I ain't going back and forth with you niggas. No, I was just standing there like, oh my, really? It was sickening to watch that, uh, because you don't hear any other group of people use a term that was created to degrade their people and put it to music. Like for instance, the term "kike" was a Jewish
Mm.
insult. Uh, it's their equivalent. Kike is an equivalent, their equivalent to the word nigger. Called to
right.
call a European Jew a kike. And so Michael Jackson in that
Just
original
like
version
you
of
would
that
call like an
song,
Italian, a wop.
yeah. And so
Wop,
in
I
that
think that's the equivalent of the N word to an Italian too.
right, and so in the original version of "They Don't Really Care About Us," Michael Jackson had the lyric in there, "kike me."
Mm-hmm. I
That
remember
Jew,
that.
that Jewish community got together and they were like, "Oh no, 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 you won't, Michael Jackson. No, you won't." And although the records were all printed and all that, he had to take all of that off the shelf and redo that song without that lyric in it because they stand up when their people are disrespected,
Mm-hmm.
um, which often we just go along with.
Hmm.
And it's really sad. So the whole thing about hypermasculinity and just our dysfunction, the dysfunction in the black community is profitable. It's been very profitable for the so-called powers that be, and
It is.
that's why they push certain images out there. They don't want to
Yeah.
show they don't want to show a whole lot of examples of healthy black love
No,
and stuff
no.
like that. And the only time you may see sort of a healthy black relationship, it has a laugh track in the background. You know, it's a sitcom. You don't really see too many uh, dramas that show a healthy black relationship, black on black relationship. You don't see a lot of that, and that's very intentional. It's very intentional. That's why it's important that we control our narrative, and that's what I'm trying to do with the films that I create, is to show healthy black love, and that's what I plan. That's what I'm going to be doing with my next film project on We Brothers. It shows healthy black love in there. I'm very intentional about what I write, and that's what we have to do as black people, as black artists in general. We have to make sure that our art um, inspires our people and uplifts our people. You know, Toni Morrison's birthday was recently, and I always admired her because she had the strength to stand up and boldly say that I write for black people. When they was telling her that she shouldn't say that, and I forgot who it was. Who was it? Was it Mike Wallace or somebody was interviewing her a long time ago because I saw a clip of it where he said to her, "Do you ever get tired of people um, referring to you as a black writer?" And she said, "No, actually, I prefer it." She said, "What I do get tired of is being asked that question, as if there's something wrong with being called a black writer."
Right, right.
Right.
Hmm.
And she said that I write for my people, and I don't have to explain anything to anybody. I don't apologize for that. And I'm the same way. I write for us. And sometimes I'm criticized about about that, about other black people. But it's not going to stop me because I know what I'm called to do. I'm called to be here for us as a people. I'm not sitting around hating anybody else. But my first priority is us as a people. We always talking about trying to build unity between us and other races, and we ignore the division amongst our own people.
True.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not about hatred, but I can't sit around here worried about trying to sing kumbaya with white folks when the division amongst our people is still going on. We
Mm-hmm.
need to heal us first.
Yeah.
Healing begins at home.
Hmm.
Okay. Once we work on healing our own people, then maybe I can think about singing kumbaya with somebody else. But until then, my focus is us first. Like the whole thing, what was the young brother's name who was attacked by his Caucasian female teacher for wearing the black king t-shirt?
Oh,
His
I
name is
forgot.
Latrell. His name is Latrell Taft,
Oh,
Hmm.
yeah.
and he was attacked by this teacher because he wore a black king T-shirt, and
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
basically referencing our history our true history of what we came from, which is royalty. That you can look that up. That's you can look up
Yeah.
our
So
history and see the royalty that we came from as a people. So in Black History Month, he was that little month that they have allotted to us. Although I
Mm.
would say that Black History is 360 5 days a
Sure
year.
is.
Mm.
Um, they he was referencing and in reference to his self concept and his sense of identity and empowerment, as a young Black man, he
Mm.
wanted to wear his Black King t-shirt to say, in a sense, I didn't just come from, this enslavement. I came from royalty. I came from
A
power.
black.
I came from equity. I came from, when I, in a sense, ruled, my societies and that sort of a thing and my civilizations, and she attacked him for that. And then she referenced something about all lives matter. So we understand what that was that white fragility
They right.
that is now, in a sense, quaking or feels disempowered or feels really scared in the face of a fully self-realized Black man, even at his young age, still feeling threatened by that. That's what I think.
and
That's
see,
what was going on.
that's why we had to be about protecting our children first,
Mhm.
Definitely.
because he should not have had to go to school and be attacked just because he wore a shirt being proud of his heritage,
Mhm.
and this female Caucasian teacher attacking him and berating him like that. If that was my child, I would have been highly upset,
Oh, I
and
wish it
prob-
was my
prob-
child. I'm
probably
glad it
would be
wasn't.
I probably would be
You have
getting
a serious
arrested. I
problem.
probably would be getting
Glad it
arrested.
wasn't.
I probably would be getting arrested or killed because I would have went up there and had some words for Becky. I'm sorry, but I'll let
Yeah,
y'all talk.
but
Go ahead and talk. Y'all have before.
I mean, it's real. I mean, I feel like you could. Why are you being attacked for who you are? I mean,
Hmm.
my God. I mean, I think I read a post um, where they was talking about how they're going to introduce African American history into the curriculum because I went to a private school, but it was like mainly African Americans. So we learned about Black history all the time. So it wasn't until I got to high school where it's like when we would have the Black history moments, and then I really realized how many Caucasians really didn't know anything. I remember one of my associates in school. She was Caucasian, and she saw my friends dressed up as the Black Panthers, and she was like, oh my goodness, I can't believe it. We went to a all girls school, so she's like, I can't
Hmm.
believe it. She was like, the Black Panther is the same thing as the KKK. I nearly
What?
choked. I
No,
nearly.
no.
This shows that,
Mhm.
in my opinion, I feel like everybody, Caucasian, Asians, all of them, need to take Black history because Black history is American history. So we built this country, so
Hmm.
they need to learn everything like how we learned more than Martin Luther King Jr. Whatever was supposed to people they need to learn it 24/7. So then when they get grown, they don't make the ignorant statements that I heard. And then when I corrected her, she had a flushed face. Now this is back in 2010. So she was like, she came back and apologized. She said, I didn't know. I'm like, I know you didn't. This is the problem. Y'all don't learn about our history until you have to take an elective in college. And the lady got so mad in her post. She was like, I don't think my children need to learn about diversity until they go to college. That is the problem because then you have adults who have this state of mind that I'm superior, I have power, privilege, and well, I'm not going to ignore it because I've only seen people of my skin complexion the whole entire time. So when they get to college and they have these interactions with people who don't look like them all the time, and then they're embarrassed. Then again, they have white fragility because now they're embarrassed because they don't know something. They thought they knew something, and then now
Hmm.
they have to unlearn everything and sometimes that comes with resistance, but this is why
Right.
I feel like our history needs to be taught to everyone, starting in pre-K. We need to start talking and everything because then we won't have these incidents, or let's just say,
Right.
too many occurrences of Karens and Dons acting a fool in public.
Yeah.
I totally agree. But what's really sad is I know a black man, a grown black man, who made that same stupid statement. that the Black Panthers is the same as the KKK. I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, who were you talking to? Somebody white? Somebody white told you that?
Mm-hmm.
Really? I mean, the KKK was not the Black Panthers was nothing like the KKK. The Black
Nothing.
Panthers was about protecting Black people and starting programs to help feed Black children and stuff like that.
Yeah.
They weren't out here trying to attack random Caucasians. You know, like I talk about Malcolm X all the time. There's somebody who I greatly admire. You know, he was billed as being violent. Malcolm was never violent. He
Mm-hmm.
never told anybody to go out here and just attack random white people. He
No.
Mhm.
spoke he spoke about self-defense. He was saying that we should protect ourselves against being attacked by Caucasians. When they used to stick dogs on our people and turn those giant water hoses on our people and beat us with these billy clubs and stuff like that, he was saying we should fight back, protect ourselves.
Mm.
Self-defense, self-defense is not violent, but
It's not.
we've been convinced that us protecting ourselves against attacks from them is us being violent. But we don't feel that way if another Black person does something to us. We don't have a problem fighting back another Black person.
Right.
But when a Caucasian does it, we'll sit there and take it. No,
Mm.
we're not supposed to just we're not supposed to take that abuse from anyone.
And I wanted to point that out because that's really relevant, as far as re-owning and retaking our narratives. And that's why, in a sense, I wanted to talk, just a little bit about what that hyper masculinity thing is, because they took that gangster and, in a sense, some of the black exploitation, the 70s as well, kind of went into that, before, the whole gangster rap came along to push black men into this hyper violent this hyper violence when it came to inflicting that on other black men, not so much when it came to, in a sense, defending our
Mhm.
people, defending who we are, and then defending our women, defending our children, that sort of a thing. So I just wanted to, to put that in there to try to, re-own and retake that narrative, because that, in a sense, that's what they did do with that whole gangster rap thing. And now gangster rap, of course, has become trap, and trap is the same thing. You have black men up here who are still, disrespecting our women, and still, in a sense, being pushed, into being, hypersexual or oversexual, or over sexualized as men, and still talking about killing and taking out other melaninated men, that sort of thing, as far as that whole hyper masculinity is concerned. So we can be hyper violent. See, this is the hit. We could be hyper violent when we're disrespecting our women. We're not, in a sense, taking care, of our kids, that sort of a thing. And when we're killing other black men. But they
Mhm.
don't want us to be, and to our own what our kinghood is. What we've always been as men, as what we've always been as black men, as kings. They don't want us to defend our women. They don't want us to defend our our children. That sort of thing. And this is what the Black Panthers did. This is exactly what they did, and this is exactly pretty much what they was all. They was all about building a self-determined self-defense for our people, because it was sorely needed. And they was, they encourage, if especially if you watch, Judas and the Black Messiah, you will see that. You will see our women being loved. You will see our women, being respected. You will see
Yep.
our women owning their power right along with our men. You will see our men protecting our women, feeding our kids, and providing, being providers, being protectors.
Mhm.
They don't want that. They want us, as far as this hype, they want to push us into this hyper masculinity, but yet and still they chafe in the
Yeah.
face of our masculinity when we own it as the kings that we are as men. And so I just want to put that out there, that we have to re-own and retake that narrative, most definitely.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that's why. And again, I'm not being mean or hateful when I say this. It just happens to be true. And Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said the same thing. He was feeling the same way before he left this earth. That integration was not a gift to us. Integration tore us down in a whole lot of ways. Our people were a lot better off before integration, and integration was not allowed because they wanted to be so-called nice and do a good thing. Integration was only allowed because they wanted to interrupt all the progress that Black people were making together. Our people was doing good with one another. You had a whole lot more Black owned businesses. Every store in the neighborhood was Black owned. Nowadays, you're hard pressed to find a Black owned business in Black neighborhoods. Everybody else but us, pretty much, in most Black neighborhoods, owns stores in our
China
neighborhood.
brand,
Yeah,
all
Most
that.
Chinese,
definitely.
Indian, Arabs. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
So shout out to that one that's here. I don't know who you are because it only just says that one is here. But shout out to you, fam. If you've been with us, for the duration of our discussion tonight. Let's go into what is called emasculation.
oh
And
God.
I'm going to give,
God.
yes, we got to talk about that.
Oh God.
And we're going to talk about buck breaking too. We're going to talk about those two as well, because I understand that the sister Kimberly Truesdale can be for us, for the duration of So I wanted to get into some of these other topics before we get into some of the solutions that we can use as men to integrate ourselves and to become fully whole and fully empowered as Black men. But emasculation is basically to deprive a man of his male role or identity. We understand that this is what that white teacher was doing to that young Latrell Taft. She was completely assailing his sense of what of his male role and his identity, which was very, very positive for him, which is his Black kinghood, make him weaker or less effective. That sort of a thing. Emasculation was also about the removal of the penis or testicles. If so, as far as physical emasculation was concerned, they did that to us as men as well. If you go into history, if you got, if you was too much of a rabble rouser, amongst, the, enslaved populace, if they saw you as a leader, in actuality, if they saw you as a king, or in a sense, a Black Panther, that sort of a thing, protecting our women, leading our people, being the kings that we are, you would get pulled up, and they would remove your penis and your testicles to emasculate and assail your identity in a physical to be a man. And then of course the mental emasculation that goes on, with us as men as well, that's perpetrated against us as Black men. So that's what emasculation is. And if you guys, want to build on that,
And
take it away.
I don't know what their sick, twisted focus is on Black male genitalia and all that, because when they used to lynch Black men, they would also cut off the Black man's penis and take it home, put it in a jar and take it home and keep it as a souvenir, which is just,
That's disturbing.
I have no words for that. And I actually was gonna, don't laugh, but I was gonna write a spoken word piece about that, and I was gonna call it "Dicks in a Jar."
Oh
But
my God.
anyway, it was gonna be deep though, talking about that sick pathology from these people who cut off Black males' penises and actually put it in a jar and took it home to keep it as a souvenir.
But see,
Like,
back then, that's what that was.
ugh,
That was the racist and the hatred. That was the racist, hateful expression of what is white fragility in the face of our potent masculinity as black men. That's exactly what that was, and that's why they did what they did,
Yeah,
to emasculate him and to disempower him as the man that he was.
yeah, that's exactly why, you know, talking about buck breaking, right?
I we're
They
just
would,
going to go into that, but there's basically, in a sense, the same thing. We go because you have things like emasculation,
right,
you have things like demasculinization, which is basically the same thing, and then you have what is called buck breaking.
right,
And I'm just going to give a brief, example of it. It's a tactic used in slavery to break the spirit of a defiant black man or Melanite man. It involved the slave owner forcing the man to lower his trousers and bend over an apparatus like a stone, like a stump, or something that they had there for him to bend over until his buttocks were fully exposed and propped up in the air.
hmm,
He would then be beaten unmercifully. Then the slave owner would rape the man several times, through, he would rape him several times, and then he would do this in front of his family. He would do that in front of, his family,
Oh,
his
wow.
his other compatriots, as men.
right,
This is what was done, and then he would do this several times. This was done several times over during that particular time when it was being done. And the men who were victims of this often killed themselves. They
Wow.
often killed
mm,
themselves, because they couldn't deal. Of course,
Shame and guilt.
back then there was no apparatus. There was no type of anything that he could have went to alleviate the shame and the embarrassment and the guilt that was inoculated, in him from having this thing, from having this sick and heinous thing done to him. So they often killed themselves because they could not deal with the humiliation and the trauma that they suffered. So that's
yeah,
what buck breaking is, and
yeah,
this is pretty much another form of emasculation and demasculinization of the
yeah,
black of the black man.
yeah. They would, of course, as you said, they would take the biggest, strongest black man who wanted to fight back, who wanted to
Mm.
stand up and fight back, and they would do this to him to degrade him and humiliate him and break his spirit, and they would do it in front of his woman and his children, to further humiliate him. So they would look at him in a certain way. Uh, and so when we bring up stuff like, um, the emasculation of black men, some black homosexual brothers who may be naturally effeminate take
Mm.
offense to that. They take
Mhm.
offense when you say there's an agenda to emasculate the black man, but it's not meant to be offensive towards them. Um, when you say there's an agenda, there actually is an agenda when you think about Caucasians. They always have
Mm.
an agenda. And so that's why things like buck breaking went on to break the spirit of the black man so he would not stand up and fight anymore. Uh,
Right.
so this is not about trying to insult. I want to make that clear. It's not about trying to insult or put down um, black homosexual brothers who may be who may have a natural feminine essence to them. This is not
Right.
about them. You have
Mm.
to put things into context and know who we're dealing with. We're dealing with people who have a sick pathology to keep us down. And so they do have an agenda to quote unquote try to weaken the black man, not saying that being a feminine person makes you weak, but
Mhm.
this is their intentions when they do this. Just think about how these brothers, these black brothers, must have felt going through this,
Mhm.
being attacked like this, and being raped, and then knowing that their woman is watching it. Their woman is
Mm.
being forced to watch this, and his children is being forced to watch this. His son is seeing this happen to him, um, and he can't fight back because they often would gang up on one black man. It would be more than one of them.
Mhm.
Uh, and they would like pass them around or whatever. So and you had years of this going. You had all this going on for centuries
Right.
with absolutely no mental health,
Mm-hmm.
no kind of therapy. It just went on for centuries with them and never was healed. And stuff like that stays in the DNA of people. There's been research done that traumas that happen to our people
Yep.
are often passed on in our DNA. And
Yep.
I feel the presence of our ancestors. I feel what they went through. Um, that's why I can't just walk through life ignoring it and whistling like everything is just fine. Um, because I feel like our first priority is to stand up for them. And I don't go around attacking, you know, interracial relationships and stuff like that. It's just that to me, Black love is most important because that's the way that we most effectively honor our people. Because what I see nowadays going on a lot is a lot of these Black people nowadays, especially a lot of Black celebrities that are getting with Caucasian and they're having these children. A lot of times their Blackness is being diluted, and then just one generation later, their grandchildren, their grandchildren just look totally Caucasian. Like the singer Grace Jones. Grace Jones had a son by a Caucasian man. Now, with her son, and Grace Jones is a very heavily melanated sister, beautiful
Hmm.
dark skinned sister, but she had a son by a Caucasian man. Her son grew up and he just looks like a light skinned Black man, but her biracial son got with a white girl, and so now Grace Jones's grandchild just looks completely white. The same thing with Diana Ross and her biracial son who got married to a white girl. And now they just having um, white looking grandchildren. So that means that the appearance and the melanin of our ancestors is being erased from their bloodline. And to me, it's not about being hateful. To me, that's just not cool to just totally erase yourself and erase your ancestors from your bloodline. Uh, that's how I feel about that.
We
Uh,
understand, that as a people, we have like dominant. We're very, if you look into science, we have the most dominant. We're our genes are the most
Mhm.
dominant
mhm.
out of all of the different phenotypes on the face of the planet. Melanated people, or what I would say, Black people, have the most dominant genes. So we, it's that there's always been a concerted effort to dilute that, to
Mhm.
dilute it in a sense, in a sense like when you put in your cream in the coffee, to try to, in a sense, pale it up,
Lighten it up,
or whiten it
right?
up,
Hmm.
that sort of a thing. There's always been like a concerted effort to do that. But getting back to in a sense, the term emasculation and what it means, we understand how certain men in society, get, in a sense, a lot of the attention when they do dress up as women. And of course, this is not to cast asparagement on, our same gender loving brothers, who may have a strong, feminine essence, or our heterosexual brothers. There's a lot of
Hmm.
heterosexual brothers out here too.
Yeah,
They have very, very strong feminine essence about them, are very, very, in a sense, you know, have this very, very, sensitive and feminine essence about them. But
Mm-hmm.
it's the thing, they happen to be, and it's, what they would call straight or heterosexual. So I don't want to,
yeah.
perpetuate, the stereotype
Hmm.
that all men, who have a strong feminine essence are in effect SGL or whatever. We
Yeah.
always like, as a brother, as my esteemed co-host said, we always want to, create, clarity and context around these conversations. But we understand that, that might buy you access, if you choose to emasculate yourself as a man, if you choose to put a dress on, if you choose to, and like in a sense of Billy Porter, to, completely go there. Which, don't get me wrong, I understand that Billy Porter's, that's a part of his stick, and that's a part of his act. That's the thing. But
Right.
and of course, we have to go with what's his name? Of oh
Tyler
God.
Perry.
Yeah, Tyler Perry with
Oh,
you know
Medea.
with Medea, which of course got him. That's what got him in the door.
Mm-hmm.
Medea's what got him in the door. That sort of a thing. So in a sense, it does seem to be a concerted effort to to dilute the natural potent masculinity of the black man through saying, if you do dress up as a woman, if you do this, it will buy you this. So this is your way to fame.
Yeah.
This is your way to fortune. That's what it seems. Yeah, and what I'm seeing in society, it does seem to be a concerted effort to actually do that.
Yeah, I want definitely Kenya and Kimberly to talk right quick. I'm just going to say this. I have noticed that a number of brothers who are trying to break into quote unquote show business or the entertainment industry are creating these female characters, these female personas.
Uh-huh.
And I know that some of them wouldn't even normally do that, but they're only doing that because they know it's going to bring them attention. You know, like if I was decide to do that, to start dressing up like a woman and get online, which I ain't going to do, uh, my followers would shoot through the roof quickly. I'd have a whole bunch of followers overnight because people love that crap. And there's this one brother that I know right now. When he first started coming out, he wasn't doing anything like that, and I think that I'm pretty confident the only reason why he's doing that now is because he knows that
It's a formula.
it's popular, and people will notice a black man when he puts on a dress, because that's no mistake that they always trying to get a black actor to do that. Like they try to get Dave Chappelle to do that, and of course he turned it down. And I wouldn't be surprised. I haven't heard anything about it, but since they seem to always try to get black actors to do that, I wouldn't be surprised if they try to get Denzel to do it.
Ain't on that.
I know he ain't going to do it. I know he's not going to do it. I know Denzel's not going to do that. I know that, but what I'm saying is, I wouldn't be surprised if they asked him to.
Oh yeah. They offer. He ain't accepting, but they probably offer.
Well, go ahead with
they didn't want to give him. But see, this is where the hyper masculinity comes in, because they did give him an Oscar to play that.
Oh yeah, training.
That drug dealer.
That's right.
I felt he should have got the Oscar for playing Malcolm X. They will build up.
Yeah, you knew they wasn't going to do that.
They will build up the black, quote unquote gangster and the killer, and have him being hyper masculine. They'll build up this hyper masculinity when the black man is, in effect, being in that way and being, hyper violent, that sort of thing. But when he's in his role as the king and as the nobleman and as the provider for our people, no, we can't have that. We don't want that.
Yeah,
that sort of thing. So that that as far as Denzel Washington is concerned, that it's glaring. As far as the narratives, that they want to push, that sort of thing. Most definitely.
So, what y'all want to say? The Queen's talk.
Yeah, because we've been talking.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. What was I gonna say? Yeah, well, for me as a person that wants, to be, that is an actor, well, aspiring actor, I just feel like you have to be leery about what you put yourself into, though, because think about it. Halle Berry got an award for doing Monsters Ball when she was getting it on absolutely positively naked. Like, what, really? You didn't think nothing else she did, deserved an award, but you got her totally ass naked, like.
And let's not forget, she was being totally ass naked and having
with a
disrespectful sex
white man.
with a white man. That's she
Exactly.
went.
And that's
They
what she
awarded her
went
for that.
for.
They awarded her for that.
And water.
Exactly. Yeah, but didn't award her for some of the greater work that she
Right.
did. She done a lot of great things where she did not have to get naked. She did not have to expose her body in any way. And she did a great job. But you know how I go. Of course, she's not going to be awarded for the more the roles with substance. They rather give her an award for something where she's naked and with a white man. So
Right.
I mean, I just think that as people, we just have to choose our own narrative so nobody else is telling our story. You know, we need to be able to, you know what's tripped me out? And I'm going to go back just a teeny bit because I wanted to say something about it before. I think it gets the Caucasians a little scared when we start to celebrate ourselves and to celebrate our melanin. I always feel like anytime that we celebrate ourselves, they get a little nervous. That little boy wore that shirt, and I'm sure he felt like the man when he put it on. And that evil person with that hate dwelling inside of her felt the need to try to do exactly what they've been doing to us all along, try to put out the fire in us, because there's a fire in us, because we come from greatness. We come from great people. And they've been wanting to put their fire out for so long. So it's up to us to speak life back into our people, to speak life into our men, build them up so they can speak life back into these women, so we can start to appreciate each other. We have to create our own stories and not allow these Caucasians to tell our stories for us, leaving out the main details. You know, we're so much greater than what they keep attaching to us. And it's like, and what's really crazy is, if you think about it, it's almost like it's like they hate us, but they kind of love us, because they want to adapt to everything we do. They want to adapt to all of everything that we do. They want to be a part of it. But on the same note, they want to make it seem like we're inferior and we're below them. That's why we as people have to celebrate ourselves and not be afraid to do so. And if celebrating ourselves make them nervous, then so be it. Because we have to speak life into our children and allow them to be able to speak who they are, know that they're melanated and proud of themselves, so they can go through the world and not allow these Caucasians to just put their fires out. Like I said, we got a fire burning in us that don't burn in nobody else. Okay.
All
and
right.
that's real. That is so real. There's no think about it. I was watching something on YouTube, and it's this lady, I cannot think of her name, but she's a African scholar. And what she has done is, she was talking about Phyllis Wheatley, a bunch of different people. And what she said, which was very, very important, she was like, it's crazy how back when Phyllis Wheatley was trying to get people to believe that she was the poet of all this wonderful poetry, that they did not believe that anybody from Africa had the ability or the capacity to write and be able to write such meaningful words like she did. So you mean to tell us that y'all don't think that we had the same things inside of us that you have inside of you? I mean, the abilities, as far as the abilities. And it's like the people in Africa are our descendants. So if they're great, you better know that we are too. And I just really feel like deep down inside that they get, every time we come together or unify in any type of way, whether it's small or big, they really, really get nervous, because you do not try to hold down a race of people that are not destined to be great. Okay. You do not stop somebody who ain't going nowhere. What you do is you put a blockage on people that you know that if they unify and come together, that they'll be great. And that's the reason why we have all these things within our race to separate us, because they were placed there strategically and on purpose so that we would not know who we are. And so if we continue to just, ride the wave, then we'll never be able to empower our families or anybody. I'm empowered by myself. So I'm going to speak life into everybody I know, because I want them to be empowered. And if my melanin, bothers people, I'm all right with that. I don't care about how that makes them feel. They've been celebrating themselves. The Jews celebrate them. The Asians celebrate them. So everybody celebrates themselves and nobody says a word. As soon as we holler Black Lives Matter or anything about us, there's an issue.
Or black love. They
Come
don't
on
want to
now.
hear black love either. Okay.
They don't want to hear black love. They don't want to hear anything about what we're trying to do, because it bothers them that we're trying to take a different direction. They thought they held us down with slavery. They thought that was the end of us, but they don't know that we keep on pushing. They don't know that we're resilient and we stand strong. They don't know where we come from, but we do.
But they do know our greatness.
Oh no, I mean that's not like they don't know. It's like it's like kind of like an oxymoron. They know, but then again, they don't know. They know for sure that we are great people who are strong. Anytime adversity come, we smile at it and keep moving. When adversity come through them, they start checking out of here. They can't take it. They can't handle it. They don't know what to do with themselves, but we were built to last and we're strong. And we got to keep pushing our people and letting them know that that's what it's about. It's about lifting up the people around you, because once we unify, it ain't nothing they can do. Even in small numbers, it's contagious when you start to build up people. When people start, getting better and becoming better, that's exciting to me. I want to see all of us grow and become great, because greatness is in us. It's there. And we can't forget during all the stuff that's going on, that we have that greatness in us, but we forget. And we get caught up in so many of the things that really resulted from slavery. I don't care what nobody say, that Willie Lynch letter, that separation, that caused a lot of the issues that we have against each other. That's something that they didn't strategically set a whole lesson in place to teach other people to enslave white people. They had a whole lesson in place to enslave our people. That they figured would work for like 2,000 years. And the date they gave was like 2010. And it surpassed that date. It's still working. It's still, we got to do something about that. We have to change our mindsets about relationships and men. Like, another thing I want to say before I cut it off. You know how we got to learn how to grow with, as far as Black men and Black women, is because the way we talk to each other, the respect we have for each other, we have to redefine that, and we have to learn how to really respect each other. Will you also think that we brought a lot of stuff, that dysfunctional stuff from slavery? We brought that too. That division, that's not what we're supposed to be, but it was put there. And now we have to try to undo our thinking about each other. We'll forgive some white person across the street, Caucasian across the street, before I forgive my cousin, my blood, my family. Something's wrong with that. You'll never see any other type of race scolding their race outside and in public. We're the only people that do all that.
Yeah,
we embarrass our own people.
Yeah, they do it behind closed doors. They'll check each other behind closed doors, but they're not going to do it in front of the whole world. It's the respect factor. Right. It's like when you have a different respect for people, you treat them differently. You hold them to a certain extent. You won't do. It's like a cap. There's a level that you won't cross, like when you respect somebody a certain way. And that's what we're missing. We're missing that respect. Like when you get into an argument with a boyfriend, girlfriend, spouse, whatever, the goal is not to hurt their feelings, but that's what people end up doing. They end up arguing, fussing, and listening to respond instead of listening to the person's heart. And that's what we're missing. We're not listening to each other's heart. We're so busy killing each other. We're not listening. And then we got young people, and my focus is mainly them young people, because I spent most of my life mentoring young people, and that's what I do. I speak life into them, and I try to allow them to have a chance to be something great. If it's just something I say that allows them to cling on to something where they want to be better, you know what I mean? Our young people are our future, and right now the future is looking really grim. It's looking really. I don't know. These young people, they not growing up. Like in my generation, we had Big Mama. We had these people speaking life into us. We had people hugging on us and disciplining us that weren't our parents. Nowadays, everything is just so different. We just got to get back to the basics, back to the things that helped us to grow and to love each other. Like that Black love, it's nothing like it. You got to keep pushing that like crazy. Like we celebrate everything else. We need to stop celebrating everything else until we celebrate ourselves.
Did you want to speak on that, Sister Truesdale, Sister Kimberly?
No, she summed it up perfectly.
You sure did. You preaching. We're gonna have to. Me and Content
I'm sorry.
already.
I ain't
No,
trying
no,
to.
no, no, no,
I'm
no,
not
no, no,
trying.
no, 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 no. But that's the right kind of preaching. Because see, me and Sister Content gonna start a church. We're gonna start a church. Uh, we're gonna start a church called Blackity Black 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 Ministry. So you're gonna be joining with us. You're gonna be one of the pastors of that church. Yes,
Going in, man. Definitely going in. Going in, going in.
But I wanted to say something about the award thing right quick because
Yeah.
there's a lot of powerful lines in that play, The Meeting, which is about a conversation between Malcolm X and Martin Luther King. A lot of powerful lines from Malcolm, and one of the lines that Malcolm says to Martin is, "Doesn't it worry you just a little that the same people that are doing most of the oppressing are also giving out all the awards?"
Yeah, that's deep.
Because of the narrative. They
That's deep.
always want to own the narrative, and we understand, just like with the people of the United States, Billie Holiday, how's it go? Billie Holiday?
Versus United States.
The United States versus Billie Holiday. Yeah.
The United States versus when we get to tell our own stories, we see the richness and the power that it engenders amongst us as a people. When we get to own our own narrative and tell our own stories, we're going to see more movies like Judas and the Black Messiah and the people versus Billie Holiday. I think I got that right.
The United States.
The United States versus Billie Holiday.
Yeah.
Most definitely. Or we'll constantly keep getting, bringing up that Monsters Ball again. Because in a sense, and in that movie, he killed her son. He killed her son in that. He killed her son in that movie, and then she turns around and goes and lays with him. So in a sense, it really almost really truly almost felt like rape. The whole with just the emotional aspect of it and how she had to be like desperate. It's almost like she had this desperation for him and that sort of a thing, and and that's what they're going to, in a sense, denigrating her, as a woman. That's what they're going to award her with. That sort of thing. That's what happens. We see that denigration and we see that demoralization that they do to us, when they get to own the narratives and not us.
Yeah, that's you spoke perfectly about that when Viola Davis, she said how she regretted doing the help. I mean, because she said that it was like Black people or African Americans shouldn't be only do the slave roles, and I was like, oh, she did an outstanding job, but I could do the same roles that a Meryl Streep does, or her other counterparts. So she even discussed on a podcast, or I think it was an interview, I can't remember, about how she regret doing the role from The Help, and it was another actor. I'm trying to remember where they said they regretted doing a role because it was below them. And they said, well, I went to school, Juilliard, and things of that nature, and all I get is slave roles. That's all you see me as. So it comes to, they just categorize, some of our beautiful, talented actors and actresses to those slave roles or the helping roles, and not never a lead role that could really showcase their talents that they went to the best of the schools with. So.
Right.
Just like if we would bring up we used to talk about Eric LaSalle and what that brother went through, as far as, he was the beautiful brother, that came out with, the Drop Squad, that sort of a film. And I forget what show he was on, but of course they fired him from the show because he didn't want to be cast with Caucasian women. He wanted to show Black love and express Black love with his art, and because he refused to be, cast with Caucasian women, they in a sense blackballed him, or what I would even call whiteballed him, that sort of a thing. Eric LaSalle.
Yeah, they wanted to give him a white love interest in the show, and he refused to do that because he said, out of respect for black women, he was not going to allow himself to be seen on screen, um, you know, playing kissy face with a Caucasian woman. Out of
Mm,
respect for black women, he was not going to do that. And because he stood up and said that he was not going to have a white love interest, he was, you know, um, crucified or punished for that by the industry. And that's another reason why it's important that we have our own industry, that we
yeah.
have things for our own black actors and actresses so they don't have to settle for whatever from them. We need to
Mm,
have our own I don't want to call it black Hollywood. I don't want to call it Hollywood. We have to have another name for it. But we need to have our own so that black actors who do stand up will have some place to go
yeah.
to show their talent and not have to just depend on them and put up with whatever they just want to throw our way.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever
Um,
scraps they throw our way, most definitely.
mhm.
You
Yep.
know,
I I think well, I know you. I wanted. I definitely want you both here for the topic of female pedophilia. Um, right quick because there's something that most people won't touch. And a lot of times because I know several black males who say that they were molested by women as children. And most time people brush it off, don't take it seriously because when a boy has some type of sexual interaction with a female, it's supposed to be something seen as celebrated or whatever. And even in that situation, when it's molestation, it's also supposed to be looked at as some type of sick what's the term? Some type of sick medal of
like,
honor. I think.
like
Uh,
like a rite of passage into manhood,
yeah,
Yeah.
that
and,
sort of
and
thing. A rite of
and
passage,
so
basically.
yeah, and so I have a male cousin who was molested by a female babysitter when he was little, and you know he didn't feel comfortable telling anybody that he was traumatized by that because if he said he was traumatized, even though he was a little boy by being abused by a female, he would be looked at like, "What's wrong with you? You should have enjoyed that," you know.
Mm,
Hmm.
And Kenya told me about two black men that she knows that were molested as children by females, and I want her to talk about that because what she told me
yeah.
about the two different ways that was handled. I think that's important that everybody should hear that.
Okay, well, one of them that was like molested is like he was like a young teenager, and the
Hmm.
girl was like several years older than him, and she was his babysitter. And
Hmm.
so basically to him, it was celebrated, yeah, high five to the boys and all of that. What happened was psychologically later, he went to therapy. And when he told that to the therapist were basically kind of revealed that that wasn't a one up. That wasn't a good thing. You were actually taken advantage of, and it's considered in the same bracket as molestation. And he was like shocked because he never viewed it that way. He never gave it that perspective. He never had that perspective in his mind. So in his mind, it was like, oh, high five, good thing, yeah, it was cool, whatever. But really, once he, as a grown man, married, trying to come to terms with his feelings and his emotions and how he feel about who he is, he started to realize that the therapist was telling him some real stuff. He like never looked at it, never took that view of it, and saw that even though he didn't have that view of it, it still had a impact on how he expressed himself as a husband, a father, and a man. The other one that was molested by a female when he was younger, he reverted back, was like afraid of women. And so he wasn't sure about what he was. You know what I'm saying? He struggled with his sexuality. He didn't know what was what. But he came to the grips with it and understood that was just something that happened to him, and it did not define him. It wasn't who he was. It was a situation that he experienced. He had to question who he was. He had to balance out who he figured out, figure out who he was and all of that.
Hmm.
And he's actually married now.
Hmm.
Wow.
Okay,
So,
that that's very interesting that you said.
Cause let me backtrack. He had a
Wow.
moment where he ended up messing with same sex because he was confused.
Right.
He wasn't sure.
Yeah, so that's what I want to say something about, because it's very interesting, because a lot of people will be shocked to hear that, because
Yeah.
that this young boy was touched by a female, and it made him question his sexual orientation, because
Mm-hmm.
normally people would assume that would not make him question his sexual orientation. They think that the only thing that would make him question his sexual orientation if he had been molested by a
I mean,
man.
hmm
Yeah, but he was molested by a woman, and it kind of made
Yeah.
him fear them. He was like
Wow.
scared of them. It was like it created real fear inside of him. So
Mm.
he was able to heal from that, and that's the great thing about healing and therapy. You take the time to work on the inside of you. A lot of people take time to work on the outside. The women are doing the lashes, the hair, the all of that, but baby, how does your inside look? A lot of guys, they getting the hair cut, they got on these fly clothes, but
Right.
what's happening on the inside of you? You gotta work on that the inside, what's going on the inside of you. So it was just really interesting to hear about two different perspectives of it, and see like the
Mm.
direction that they both took. And the other one is also married, and it's just like, you just end up having um issues within a relationship because of the reality of what happened.
Yeah, but
Because
that's
see, based on the way he viewed it, his whole life was totally different than the reality.
hmm that was just really
wow.
shocking to hear that
Yeah.
him being touched by a female made him question his sexual orientation,
Oh
and,
yeah,
and, and, and
yeah,
Mhm.
even made him go so far as to experiment
Wow.
with another male.
Because it's
yeah.
Wow.
you always hear you always hear the reverse
Right.
Right.
of
Hmm.
that, and I'm so glad, Sister Kenya Jace, that you did, that you brought that to us tonight here at King Talk, because you always hear the reverse of that. You always hear maybe, for one of our brothers, who was, something had happened to him when he was, incarcerated,
Hmm.
and maybe something, had happened to him where, he might have, been, raped, or molested.
Hmm.
You often hear, that might, lead him into, quote unquote, being, same gender leveling, that sort of
Hmm.
thing. But you never hear the reverse of
Yeah.
that. You never hear the reverse of that, as far as, if a woman takes advantage, of a young male and, molests him, that sort of a thing, that would lead him, into questioning who he was, that sort of
Hmm.
a thing, as far as, his relationship to women. I never
Yeah, that's really shocking.
that
Yeah.
is like, that's very, very, but it's shocking,
Yeah.
but it's so eye-opening as well,
hmm
because this whole, as far as, the buck breaking thing is concerned, they're take, and we understand, because we that's why we gave it the treatment that we wanted to give it here, on Key Talk. Is you what happened was they're trying to take that and use that as a, in a sense, as, this is how black men became, in a sense, same gender loving. And we understand that black men, were same gender loving. We were same gender loving people before, thousands of years before, we fell into slavery, and, when fell into, and, as far as, was disempowered to a point where, uh, we, where our men, where that was done, to our men like that. So you always hear how rape is, the result of, men being, in a sense, same gender loving, that sort of a thing, or in a sense, gay, that sort of a thing. But you never hear the reverse of that. You never actually hear the reverse of that. And I feel that it's so much because of how our men are engendered in this society, how we're raised.
Hmm.
That's sort of a thing, that, it's not even a thing. Yeah, you really, really, truly got molested, and you got, and that's a very, very devastating thing to have happened to you. But of course, it's not seen that way. because of the way that our men are over sexualized in the
Mhm.
society and that sort of thing, and exploited sexually in the
Right.
society as well. Most definitely. So that was
We
awesome.
definitely we definitely want to hear from you, Kimberly, though, before we go. Come
Yeah,
on.
go ahead. Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Kwame.
No, I'm taking all the information in. I'm taking it all in. Um, right. So well, again, my premise or background for this part of the discussion is really more like the clinical mental health side. So so I know we've been using the term pedophile. So I just want to give more context to that because sometimes we use pedophile and sex offender interchangeably. And
Mhm.
so if I have to be in my clinician role, I
Hmm.
would have to say the instances of what's been going on about, let's just say the lady was 25 and the boy was 15. We would call her a sex offender instead of a pedophile because
Mhm.
pedophiles is only for clinical, is a clinical term like
Right.
describing those who have a psychological disorder, only sexual attraction to prepubescent children. It's
Oh,
nothing of
okay.
the disorder.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah. So
Yeah, I see.
I'm just saying, like in the clinical world, like I can't use like, oh, she's a sex offender because he's 15. It's only about a so like 15, 16.
Hmm.
It's about a 10-year difference as to like if she was 25 and he was 10,
Hmm.
Mm.
then she would be a
Wow.
pedophile because then
Oh,
it's the
okay.
primary or exclusive sexual attraction to boys and girls of a certain age, a prepubescent age. Now, a
Right.
sex offender is a person who's been convicted of sex-related crimes, of people underage. And, you hear, oh, an 18-year-old and a 17-year-old. I mean, sorry, 18-year-old and a 15-year-old. Now, they say, oh, that's not too bad. But, under certain laws, under certain times, they would
Hmm.
be convicted as a sex offender. And I just wanted to highlight Tommy J. Curry. He's an American scholar and he is the author, a professor of philosophy. I'm sorry, I have my notes so I remember. He currently holds a personal chair in Africana philosophy and Black male studies at the University of Edinburgh. In 2018, he won an American Book Award for The Man Not Race, Class, Genre, and the Dilemmas of Black Manhood. Now, him and Miss Ebony Utley wrote an article talking about She Touched Me, and it's called Five Snapshots of Adult Sexual Violations of Black Boys. When I tell you guys, there is not enough information about this. It's
Hmm.
like when I tried to look up, and I'm even thinking about doing my discussion about this when I graduate, that it's not enough studies about what happens to the African American or Black boys who are uniquely at risk for sexual invitations and statutory rape, primarily by via older women and female perpetrators. We don't hear about it. We don't talk about it. It's
Hmm.
like again, it's a badge of honor. And if you look at social media, Boosie, the rapper, he made
Yeah.
headlines saying that he would get his 18-year-old son a stripper or his young children like, oh, if he
Yeah, I heard about that.
Hmm.
he had someone of a certain age and my child was still a teenager, that's to be expected. It's a rite of passage. When did that become acceptable?
Hmm.
Mhm.
Because I know plenty of men who told me like, the homeboys, oh, you haven't hit her yet, oh, she's giving you the eyes, she's 20 something, she's 25. But to be honest, anything that exposure for anything before your time is abuse and trauma. Like Miss Kenya said, like when her cousin went to therapy, he found out that it really wasn't a badge of honor. It is really trauma and it's traumatic and it involves the psyche and it changes the psyche, how we think, how we process. Then that's why you have, we keep the same, we condition our men, our little boys to think that, son, if a father talking to a son, I'm not saying this happened in every household, but a
Hmm.
father talking to a son say, oh, son, look at her, look at that fine woman. I mean, she's
Hmm.
25. Go get her number. And mind you, the son is only 16, doesn't know his body. He's just coming to, who he is. You know,
Mhm.
the mind isn't fully complete until, doesn't start really growing until 25. So we
Hmm.
could have our condition our boys to not say anything because it's seen as a badge of honor, a rite of passage. And we
Right.
condition ourselves to accept it. And a quote that was in the study says that male victimizations, even suffered by a child, is often overlooked and it is rationalized as something different and less violent than what would happen if it would happen to a young girl. And I think that is so crucial
Mhm.
Yes,
because
I
when you
agree.
hear about a young we hear about a young woman, 16, 17, and her boyfriend 21. Oh, that's a sex offender. Oh, get away from my daughter. First thing, about to get a shotgun. You know what they say? The shotgun about to chase the man away. And that's wrong in its own way, because you have to look at why an older man wants to look into a younger woman. It's something that is missed in his 8 stages of development. If we look at psychologist Eric Harrison, his stages of development, something happened, something was missing. So
a lack.
yes, a lack. That definitely. So it's not enough information out here. But I tell you that it's only bits and pieces, and so that's why it says my job as a resource that I can talk about this stuff and find more participants, because again, more Black males are going into therapy, which means which means that stories are being told, which means they're coming out of unrepresented and underserved populations, which means they're getting a chance to really come out and say, this was not right. If I would have known better, so if somebody would have protected me, because they're not being protected. We are putting in conditions again, and we're conditioning the psyche and conditioning the trauma to go from the next generation to the next generation, and it's sad. So I just wanted to put that out there, that that we have a lot of sex offenders who are of older women and teenage or girl female perpetrators more than we know.
Wow.
Right. That was powerful.
That
was
great. Very, 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 very well informed. Very, very powerful.
Thank you.
Commentary by both.
Yes, both our queens.
Both of our queens, who are here on King Talk tonight, like really providing a window and a different perspective on female sex, because that the sister Kimberly Truesdale did definitely point out the difference between what a sex offender is and what what pedophilia is, that sort of a thing. So definitely, wow, I have nothing really to, because I'm not really too and I really thing about it is that I always feel I'm really like well read on things, but I had no. You're always hearing about the offense coming from innocent men, not necessarily from women, and that sort of a thing, and so me and Cartage, when we think we was going to talk about this, we wanted our queens to come on and build on it, because we didn't want to be seen as being biased or being misogynistic or that sort of thing, because we honor and we love and we cherish our beautiful goddesses and our beautiful Black queens here on King Talk, always. That sort of thing. We always wanted that type of input here on King Talk. So I really, I'm going to really look into it after this particular episode. I'm going to this particular segment. I'm really going to look into it, because I knew that it went on, but I just didn't.
It's not discussed a lot.
I didn't know the depth of it. That's
yes.
Most definitely. Wow. So where we go from here, we can look at some solutions about, we talked about a lot of things. We talked about hypermasculinity, toxic masculinity. We talked about, female, pedophilia as opposed to female sex, offenders, that sort of a thing. We talked about the continued, attacks and the murders on the Black man. We talked about emasculation, that sort of thing. So I feel we've gotten, to a lot of what the core of what is going on with the Melanite man, as far as what the topic of the show was about. But we here at King Talk, we just don't want to go into what the traumas are and what the troubles are. We want to go into some of the solutions. Some of the solutions was actually pointed out in the show. Some of you guys have already came up with some of the solutions. I do have some things written down, but if you guys have any ideas, if y'all have any ideas, go ahead and go into them. That sort of thing. But I have some solutions of what our men can do to heal, to become fully whole and fully empowered as the beautiful kings that they are, fully owning their own manhood, and actually in a way, because we understand in every woman there's a little bit of man, and in every man there's a little bit of woman. So what we want to do is integrate, his feminine essence within him, and have him be able to balance that out with his masculine essence within him, making him what I would say, or what I would call, a fully whole man, being able to own all of who he is, as 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 a Melanite man, as a beautiful Melanite man, that uh our kings are, most definitely. So I do have some I do have some solutions here for, the brothers, who may watch this, or who may be going through whatever, it was, that we pointed out in this particular episode of King Talk. But if you guys, like I said, if you all have something, go ahead and go have at it.
I'm gonna say, because I have to sign off, so I'm so sorry, but I did want to just say, where I'm coming from again, therapy, therapy, therapy,
Right,
therapy. It
therapy.
helps. It works. Keep building the community. And when you have therapists who look like you, it's just so much more that you can dive into. You can do more breaching and bringing up cultural aspects, and diving into uh, the topics that we discussed tonight. It can be discussed in therapy. He or she can be given the tools, to really find the balance in their lives, to know that have, have I can build my emotional intelligence, like we talked about earlier, and I can still be a masculine, strong man at the same time. That's just from my standpoint. I know there are other great things that you guys are going to discuss, and other solutions. I thank you guys so much for having me tonight. It was a beautiful experience, and I thank you for each and every one of you guys. You guys have definitely poured into me, and I definitely learned some stuff tonight, and I definitely can't wait to use it. I'm always going to use my resources. So thank you guys so much.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Kimberly.
Thank you,
And
Queen.
Kimberly,
Sister
I
Queen.
have a
Go ahead, Copley.
I have a shameless plug. I can't wait to see you, Kimberly, on Tuesday, March the 9th at 6:30 on the C Note.
Yes.
Live on Instagram. She'll be my guest on the C Note. So yeah.
And I want to personally thank you, Sister Kimberly Truesdale, for coming on and sharing your vast experience
Yeah.
on the subject, and really, really giving us, a different viewpoint on
Mhm.
King Talk, and a very unique viewpoint, and for clarifying things for us,
Yeah.
as well, as far as the context. We always want to keep the context sharp
Mhm.
and clear and clarified on King Talk, because we want that substance and that healing and that differentiation, that sort of a thing. We always want clarity in our conversations, to gear towards healing at King Talk. Thank you, and you are always, always welcome here. And
Yeah.
you have a good night.
You're always welcome here, Kimberly
Always, always
Truesdale.
welcome here.
Always.
Thank you.
We
Thank you,
love you,
guys.
sister. We
Love
Okay.
love
you
you.
guys too. Be
Love
blessed.
you. You
You
too.
too.
Okay. All right. So, like I said, I do have some. You guys have some solutions to point out. We could definitely point out some solutions. If not, I
Well,
got a few things here I can rattle off, and then uh, we
well,
can
the
go
only
into. We can definitely go into that.
well, the only thing that I was going to say, we have to be very strategic when we're trying to heal our people. Period. Not just black men. We have to be very strategic. Some of our people have to be tricked into being healed. Um, and that's why the arts can be a very powerful tool to
Mhm.
All right.
to bring about a healing. Um, People say that plays and movies are just entertainment. That's not true. They're very strong influences, and so that's what I try to do. Use my artistry to bring about a healing into open up our people's minds to start loving themselves in their own image, and our own image and so forth. Um, that's all I want to say.
Sister Kenya.
I got one thing that I noticed that I saw working. A friend of mine, her husband has started a group with just guys, and he started the group because I guess he realized he had some issues in life, and he was trying to, like converse with some other guys, or communicate with some other guys who were willing to share their issues, and some of them like might have similar issues. What I saw happen there is they built a brotherhood, and they begin to look out for each other. They talk about their issues. They talk about they begin to talk about their emotions because a safe place was established for them to be able to do so, and they were able to open up. It was just something that I saw that was very effective. And he was just one person. The group was probably about 10 guys. And I think they still meet to this day. I think they've been doing it for a few years now. But can you imagine that on a larger scale? Can you imagine all those different brothers lifting each other up, telling each other how great they are? You know what I mean? If you get that type of connection with the men, I feel like once the men kind of get some kind of unification with each other, it'll be easier for them to be able to respect the women. Because then their whole mindset will be changing. They'll be getting in touch with their feelings. They'll be identifying the weaknesses and strengths, and they'll be able to dive into their full truth of themselves. And then you get the best of the man when you get the full, when he can live in his full truth and be comfortable with who he is. So that was just a small little thing that he did himself just to try to unify some guys. And I just saw how it was helping them grow, and it was changing their marriages and changing their relationships. And it was just amazing on a small scale. So I just thought I'd share that.
Wow. Thank you. Definitely, Sister Kenya Chase, for sharing that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna point out
Thank
some,
you.
if Cortez does, if you don't have anything to say, I'm gonna point out some things
Go ahead.
our brothers can do to help them integrate into that fully whole person, that I'm talking about, and that I hopefully I define clearly in that sort of a way. One is, we talked about it before, but we talked about it in a different context, is a rite of passage. And a rite of passage is basically, I think, in a sense, Sister Kenya just pointed that out. Get with a bunch of other guys, and y'all, in a sense, go through something together, and y'all grow together as black men. Because we understand we have these negative rites of passages out here now. Like, if you kill another black man, that's a rite of passage. If you go to jail, that's a rite of passage. Those are not rites of passages. Rite of passage is something that was in our culture as melanated people, where when you got to a certain age, maybe 16 to 17, you went off with the elders, and they taught you things, and they put you through tests, and they put you through trials, and upon your successful completion of those particular trials, and we understand they weren't just physical things, there was mental and emotional things, and spiritual things you had to do as well. Upon completion, that's when you now had the right, to be called, as a man, and they would teach you about yourself. So when you came back from this particular excursion with these men, you had a whole sense of who you were. You knew exactly what you needed to do in the community, what your job was, the whole nine. It integrated you well out of adolescence and puberty into what is now called manhood, that sort of a thing. So rite of passage, definitely look into that, brothers. Look into that. Most definitely. The sister Kimberly Truesdale pointed out psychotherapy. Definitely, you can, I do psychotherapy myself, and I do have another black man, who I do that with. It's very, very powerful, very healing. It breaks up patterns, old useless patterns, of behavior, that sort of thing. It empowers you on the inner. It helps you get rid of a lot of traumas and things, and baggage and stuff like that that you've been carrying around with you for years.
Yeah.
So I would definitely recommend that to the brothers. For the brothers who may have some substance abuse going on, I'm going to recommend a 12-step program. Of course, there's other alternatives of recovery too as well. You don't necessarily have to get into a 12-step program, but the 12-step program really, really, truly does help you out, as far as if you're addicted, to something. Understand a lot of our brothers are addicted to substances because they're medicating on stuff like trauma, they're medicating on stuff like depression, they're medicating on stuff like abuse, and that sort of a thing. It does lead, to that. I'm also going to point out journaling. Journaling is a very, very powerful way of getting to know yourself. It's a very, very powerful way of getting to unload and unpack a lot of baggage that you may have. Just another way of unloading and unpacking that baggage. It gives you a powerful insight into yourself as well. So journaling, I'm going to go ahead and promulgate that and put that out as another thing that the brothers, can use to fully integrate themselves. Another thing I want to talk about, real quick is physical fitness. Physical fitness, as far as not only just exercise, but eating the right diet, putting, the things in you, that are going to really, really help you be a healthy man. Things like fruits, vegetables, beans, legumes, nuts, that sort of a thing. Doing less animal products, less sugars, less starchy foods, that sort of thing. Those things, and coupled with a physical, a vigorous physical fitness program, will greatly help you in your mind-body integration and in your mind-body spirit integration. It will really help you. It will empower you. You'll feel so much better. You'll feel so much. You have that inner confidence, and you have that glow, that sort of a thing. So definitely physical fitness. Another thing I want to point out, to the brothers, I have two more, and then, we can go ahead and, because we've been like, a couple of hours, and a half now. I want to point out something that I call shadow work. Shadow work is basically, a spiritual endeavor. It's something very, very deeply personal. And what you're doing with this shadow work is that you're looking into I would say the darkness of yourself. You're going and you're facing the darkness of who you are. Now, as far as a rite of passage is concerned, shadow work may actually be a part of that. As a matter of fact, all of these, that I just named, or the rite of passage, psychotherapy, 12-step program, journaling, fitness, all of these go into what I would call shadow work. Because in a sense, what you have to do is you have to face these parts of yourself that are, in a sense, been hidden from you, but yet hold so much power. And to unlock the keys, and to unlock the keys of who you really truly are as a person. So all of these things that I pointed out does involve what I would call a little bit of shadow work, or shall we say integrating the darker parts of ourselves so that we can empower ourselves, because so much power is there hidden from us. And a lot of times we get so involved in life as black men and surviving as black men, we don't never see it. We don't even know that it's there. It's just something that follows us around all of our lives. And if we don't take care and deal with these darker parts of ourselves, they tend to create blockages and get in our way. And then the last thing that I want to point out, which is the seventh thing, we understand that 7 is the number of completion, is what I would call fasting. Now, I do, in a sense, intermittent fasting, that sort of thing. Fasting, in a sense, is shadow work as well. And basically what it is, it's a form of discipline, of putting down your plate. A lot of times I'll fast, with fruit. A lot of times, I'll just fast with water, but it's a way to really, really, truly unlock a power in you that heretofore you might not have known, exists. You actually, it cleanses you in a certain type of way as far as your mentality and your soul is concerned. And it's also fasting, it's just, they just, did like a study, they're saying that fasting has a has positive effects on the brain as far as neuroplasticity. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. As far as neuroplasticity is concerned, so it helps you as far as your thinking is concerned, and it is a form of discipline. That you can definitely practice. That will empower you in ways that you would just have to do it, to see, exactly what it is I'm talking about. And if I didn't mention meditation would be the eighth thing. And a meditation is just a way of stilling your body through rhythmic breathing, stilling your body, stilling your mind, in a sense, and just letting the mind go blank with rhythmic breathing so that you can create a sense of stillness within yourself, especially with the world, as chaotic and as it is today, and all these other different things going on. We have to have a strong sense of self, of who we are as melaninated men, that sort of thing. So what it does is it grounds you. It really, really, truly helps you, in the propagation of your thoughts and emotions, and control of your emotions as well. Because when we meditate, we understand, we ground ourselves, and then we kind of, in a sense, detach from this particular, shall we say, third dimensional reality. So it's empowering in ways, just like fasting, in ways, that you would really, truly have to do it in order to get, the benefits out of it. Those are the things, that I feel that our men can do, to fully integrate themselves into into whole beings, and into being the kings and the gods that they most definitely truly are. So that's it. That's pretty much all I have to do. If y'all want to add some more to that, as far as our solutions, for integrating is concerned, go right ahead. I know Sister Kenya, you just share something with Brother Cortez, if you wanted to maybe share anything a little bit more. If not, we can
Um,
adjourn.
I pretty much said what I wanted to say about that, about being strategic, having to be
Right,
strategic as far as healing our people, because so you got to trick some of our people into being healed,
right.
especially dealing with this white gaze out here that's in a lot of our people's eyes. Um, so that's all I wanted to say.
Okay.
But you know, all I want to say, it was a great show. A lot of powerful stuff stated on here tonight by both everybody, all four of us, especially um, Kenya and Kimberly, all and you too,
Definitely.
Alex. Said some very powerful
Our
things.
queens
And,
really, really showed out tonight. Not that y'all never showed out, but
mhm.
awesome, awesome. I'm very, very happy. I'm happy to have you here, Sister Kenya Chase, and you are always, always welcome here on King Talk.
Thank
Always.
you so much.
Most definitely.
Yeah,
Thank
and
you for your input. Thank you.
yeah, and we definitely want you to join us on March the 17th at 6:30 p.m. for our next segment of
Right.
Key Talk, which will be about mental health.
Going to be
Oh
about
yeah.
mental health. We'll be going.
And
We'll be going into mental health again. Most definitely.
it's also going to be taking place on St. Patrick's Day, which we also should talk about.
Okay.
Right.
March
Okay.
17th. March 17th is St. Patrick's Day.
March.
We definitely need to talk about how that came about.
Most
Okay.
definitely. Most definitely. You will definitely get the history on that family. Thank you for the family that's still here. That one that was just there, throughout the whole duration of the show. And maybe if you were the same person, thank you, family, for showing up. Thank you for spending some time, here, with King Talk with us tonight. Thank you for all of the fam, that has shown up, that has, bared with us, through, maybe, some of, the technical difficulties, that we had, that precluded us, from bringing King Talk to you two guys last week on Wednesday. But yes, we are going to be going forth this on February this what
March
they call
17th.
St. Patty's Day, this sort of thing. We would definitely be going.
So get your green on, folks. I'm just joking. Don't do that. Anyway,
we're going to be going into that again. So if that's all that y'all need to say,
yeah. And I just want to say what our little tagline is.
At King
You know,
Talk, we don't talk.
let's not
Let's not talk
at each other. Let's talk with.
Let's talk with each other. Most definitely. Most definitely. So thank you, family. Thank you.
Yeah, family.
What I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and start this, music. And then after I start this music and everything, we're going to go ahead and adjourn.
Okay.
And get out of here. Like, and the family who this definitely will be recorded. It's being recorded now. You can find us on YouTube at King Talk Black on YouTube. You can find we have a Facebook page as well called King Talk Black, and go
on
and
Facebook.
support.
On Facebook is just King Talk. On Instagram is King Talk Black.
On Instagram is King Talk Black, and on Facebook is King Talk, and on YouTube is King Talk Black.
Right.
So go there, fam. Like and share the video and subscribe. Subscribe.
Good night, folks.
Bye.
All right, family. Take care.
All right, family. Love y'all.
See you.
Bye.
All right, take
Bye-bye.
care, Sister Kenya Chase.
You too.
All right.
Bye, Kenya.
Bye. Bye. Thank
Take
you.
care.
All right. Good night.
All right, family. Take care. And we'll be back.